On the very day our college entrance exams finally wrapped up, egged on by the kid who desperately wanted to be my brother-in-law, I leaned in and planted a sweet kiss right on my star student childhood sweetheart, Chloe's, cheek. But the very next second, a foot launched upward, landing with sniper-like precision squarely in my family jewels. A blinding wave of soul-crushing agony crashed over me, and my brain instantly went pitch black. When my eyes finally fluttered open again, I was staring at the ceiling of a hospital room. Chloe's face was glowing beet red. She was practically laying on my chest, nervously biting her lower lip while her finger traced slow, agonizingly soft circles over my heart. She looked up at me with these big, pitiful puppy dog eyes. "Ethan, I swear I really didn't mean to kick you so hard. How about I treat you to some ice-cold plum juice to make it up to you? Though, you're gonna have to make it yourself." Flashback to right before the exams. Chloe, the genius sweetheart who somehow sprouted a full head taller than me, had literally pinned me against the school wall with one long leg. She flashed a devilish smirk, tipping my chin up with her fingers. She said she wanted to make a little wager. "Ethan, do you dare to make a bet with me?" The bet was all about our final exam scores. If I lost, I was doomed to wash her feet every single day for an entire year. But if I won, I got to steal a kiss right on her cheek. Now, Chloe was flawlessly at the top of our class, so beating her was basically a pipe dream for a guy like me. But then, my brain started working overtime. Hold on a second. Whether I win or lose, I don't really lose out on this deal at all, do I? In fact, what if we twisted the rules just a bit? If it magically ended in a tie, wouldn't the foot washing and the cheek kissing kind of just merge somewhere in the middle? Under Chloe's thoroughly puzzled gaze. I faked a surge of macho confidence and gave a firm nod. "Fine, you're on. I'm not afraid of you." But the absolute second the exams wrapped up, I started deeply regretting trying so damn hard. The test papers were ridiculously, incredibly easy. I realized that if I actually won, there was zero chance she'd let me kiss her. So, honestly, it would have been way better to lose. At least then I'd get to wash her feet for 12 straight months. Annoyed at my own brilliance, I slammed my pencil case down onto my chair. To hell with it. Whatever happens, happens. "Hey, brother-in-law, why the long face?" A heavy hand suddenly dropped onto my left shoulder. I whipped around to see who it was. Of course, it was my future brother-in-law. Well, technically speaking, he was my hypothetical brother-in-law, Timmy. The annoying brat was exactly 2 years younger than his sister. And literally the only thing rolling around in his brain all day was how to set me up with her. Timmy glanced around like a paranoid spy, acting all secretive, and leaned in super close to my ear. "Hey, brother-in-law, I heard a little rumor that you made a bet with my sister." I stared at him. "How the heck did you know about that?" "Word on the street is you're going to be scrubbing my sister's feet for a whole year. Is that actually for real?" I glared at him. "What kind of absolute garbage are you spewing, kid?" I instantly grabbed Timmy by the scruff of his neck. The little punk shrank back into his collar like a terrified turtle, frantically squealing for mercy. My bad. My bad. Gah. I mean washing her feet." I shook him. "What kind of trash is floating around in your head all day, man? It is just washing her feet. Then honestly, kissing them would be way better." Timmy let out a high-pitched squeal that sounded exactly like a slaughtered pig. "Brother-in-law, you can't do this to me. I'm your loyal brother-in-law." I finally let him go, scolding him harshly. "You keep talking back, and I am straight up snitching to your sister." "Whoa, hey now, brother-in-law, please don't. Listen, I can literally see a glowing aura of protagonist energy around you. You're completely protected by luck, which means you are 100% winning that sweet kiss on my sister's cheek. I am completely sure you've got this victory in the bag." I just crossed my arms and shot him an incredibly annoyed glare. "Look, you know exactly what your sister is like. When push comes to shove, she is absolutely going to chicken out and back down." Suddenly, Timmy raised a hand like some mysterious wise guru and pointed off in a very specific direction. Over there, Chloe was distracted, completely absorbed in chatting with her best friend. "Brother-in-law, you make a solid point. My sister will definitely try to back out, but I actually happen to have a sneaky little trick up my sleeve that works like a total charm." I raised a skeptical eyebrow and asked casually, "Oh, really? What kind of trick?" Timmy leaned in close and started frantically whispering his master plan into my ear. Honestly, the idea sounded completely unhinged at first. But by the time he finished explaining, it actually sounded insanely reasonable. "Brother, just go for it. I'm gonna go buy myself a nice egg street crepe. With that, I stood up tall, straightened out my school uniform, and began my slow, dramatic approach toward Chloe. One heavy step, then another, walking with a devilishly overconfident swagger. Chloe had her back totally turned to me, completely oblivious to her incoming doom. Seizing the golden window before she could even react, I slapped both hands firmly onto her shoulders, spun her slightly, and planted a solid kiss directly onto her right cheek. Spoiler alert, there was absolutely zero shy, blushing maiden reaction like Timmy had promised. Instead, all I got was her giant, panicked forehead slamming violently up into my jaw. The sheer blinding pain made it completely impossible to open my eyes. And then, I felt a horrific, chilling gust of wind sweeping up from directly below. My final terrifying memory on this earth was the blurry shadow of a foot hovering millimeters from my absolute most vital sensitive area. Crack! Meanwhile, across the street, 2 innocent eggs slammed onto the hot griddle for a crepe. Wow! You sure know how to eat, young man. 2 extra eggs coming right up. The street vendor cheered. Back at the food stand, Timmy suddenly shivered violently. He hugged himself tight, his eyes darting wildly left and right as he muttered under his breath. Why do I suddenly have a really bad feeling about this? While my soul was busy leaving my body in unconsciousness, frantic apologies and unhinged screams kept drifting into my ears. Doctor! Please! You have to save my brother-in-law! If you don't, he's gonna have to permanently change his middle name to Eunuch. Wait, what the hell? Occasionally, I could also make out the panicked voices of my own parents. Doctor, please tell me, is my son going to be all right? The doctor sighed. It's nothing life-threatening. The boy was heavily exhausted and took a massive critical hit to his lower regions, so his brain simply shut down to cope with the pain. Oh God, then what should we do to help him? Before long, the chaotic voices faded away, and everything went completely silent once again. Trapped in that dark daze, I fell into a vivid dream. I dreamed that our final exam scores were finally released to the whole school, and I had scored exactly 1 point lower than Chloe. Standing there with her hands cockily planted on her hips, she chuckled with a sinister edge, stepping toward me inch by inch. Her eyes gleamed with a weird, unsettling light, and her voice dripped with a twisted sense of madness. Ethan, you lost, she whispered. And for your punishment, you have to wash my feet for an entire year. I patted my chest, actually feeling a wave of relief wash over me. Fine by me, I thought. But suddenly the entire scene violently shifted. This time, Timmy was the one sitting right by my hospital bed. His eyes were glowing with this creepy red light, and he was laughing hysterically, completely unable to stop. Brother-in-law, you lost. Now you have to kiss my feet for a whole year. I jumped in absolute horror. I tried to scream, I desperately wanted to speak, but my jaw was clamped shut. Heh. Timmy was practically radiating pure, dark energy. The corners of his mouth curled all the way up into his cheeks as he let out the sinister, echoing cackle of some ancient demonic elder. While he just kept on laughing like a total maniac, his foot somehow lifted itself into the air and began slowly extending right toward my face. That horrific foot was completely pitch black, radiating waves of this bizarre, stomach-churning stench. No, don't come any closer. I instantly broke out into a freezing cold sweat and tried to run for my life, only to find my whole body pinned down by some invisible weight. I couldn't move a single muscle as that terrifying black foot just kept getting closer and closer. I was completely losing my mind in pure panic. Don't do this to me, Timmy. Timmy, I'm begging you, man. Holy crap! My eyes snapped wide open, my entire body drenched in a cold sweat. It was pitch black all around me in the room. I frantically scratched my head, trying incredibly hard to piece together my memories. Right, first, I had leaned in to kiss Chloe, but then, bam! I got hit with a brutal headbutt, immediately followed by an incredibly vicious, crushing blow right below the belt. Apparently, that painful combo had landed me straight in the hospital. Damn that Timmy and his absolutely awful advice. I just knew from the start that guy couldn't be trusted with anything. Because of him, I had almost been turned into a complete eunuch. Just to be absolutely safe, I desperately needed to check for myself and make sure my precious manhood was still fully intact. But right at that exact moment, just as my hand grabbed the blanket to pull it back, a wonderfully familiar scent suddenly rushed straight into my nose. Without warning, a head popped right out from under the covers, resting directly against my chest. Thud! Another brutal headbutt struck me. The sheer impact made me feel like I was going to completely pass out all over again. The person pinning me down let out a startled, cute little squeal. "Ethan! Are you okay?" Panting, I managed to catch my breath and painfully lifted my head, staring straight into Chloe's wide, perfectly round eyes. "Chloe? What in the world are you doing here?" Chloe was currently sprawled directly on top of me. A deep, rosy, but nothing. I just stared at her bizarre behavior, completely thrown off. Chloe always loved bumping heads with me. Why did she suddenly seem like a total stranger? I came to apologize," she whispered. "Apologize?" My brain snapped fully awake, mostly because Chloe was literally lying right on top of me. The sheer softness of her body pressing against mine instantly short-circuited my brain. Damn it, my face felt like it was catching fire. "Hey," I stammered out. "Just get off me first. We can hash this out in a second." Chloe finally realized what was happening, and a furious blush spread all the way down to her collarbone. And yet, she didn't budge an inch. Instead, she just rested her cheek against my chest, slowly tracing teasing circles on my stomach with her finger. "I came here to apologize," she murmured softly. "Why are you pushing me away?" As she spoke, she actually shifted, pressing her soft weight down onto me even more. "Chloe, seriously, stop messing around," I pleaded, my hands instinctively gripping the bedsheets for dear life. I was desperately trying to suppress the absolute fire surging through my veins, but then Chloe slowly lifted her head, her gorgeous eyes blinking up at me. "Is a sincere apology not enough?" she whispered. "I swear I didn't mean to kick you so hard. I honestly thought some total creep was trying to kiss me. Look, I'm apologizing to you like this. Are you satisfied now?" I stared down at Chloe, completely captivated by this vulnerable side of her I had never, ever seen before. I gulped, my throat totally dry. The unexpected contrast was dangerously irresistible. "Not satisfied," I stammered. I have no idea where the liquid courage came from, but driven by pure, reckless impulse, I blurted out. "You almost turned me into a total eunuch. Look, you don't want me to stay mad at you forever, right?" Chloe completely froze. Her face was practically glowing red, but she stayed glued to my chest, that finger still tracing slow, clockwise circles on my stomach. Then, she stammered, "how about I treat you to some plum juice, just to make it up to you? But you'll have to make it yourself." In an instant, it all suddenly clicked in my dense head. No wonder she was acting like a totally different person. So, that was the hidden motive behind this whole innocent act. One brutal kick from her, and she thought one measly bottle of plum juice was going to settle the score. Still, looking down at her huge puppy dog eyes and totally helpless expression, then again. Even though the two of us had been at each other's throats for over 10 years, our bond had honestly just grown deeper with every single fight. Since she actually swallowed her pride to apologize, there was really no need to make things harder on her. Even after everything, I had to keep my guard up. "Fine then, plum juice it is, but I want the Master Kong brand," I demanded. A flicker of genuine confusion crossed Chloe's eyes. "Master Kong's?" she echoed, completely lost. I reached out and playfully pinched her cheek, muttering, "Hey, don't tell me you were actually planning to buy me some cheap knockoff brand plum juice." "Come on, don't be so stingy," I teased, pushing my luck. In an instant, the tension broke as Chloe's face flushed a furious bright red. Gritting her teeth, she glared at me and spat out every single word, one by one. "Master Kong's." I actually flinched in surprise, giving a hesitant nod. "Yeah, it's only about 4 yuan a bottle. Don't tell me you can't even afford it." I started, before she absolutely exploded. "Ethan, you absolute idiot. I would rather date a cucumber, a bitter melon, a winter melon, or a literal dinosaur than ever date you." Chloe shot up to her feet, screamed at the absolute top of her lungs, and sprinted off without even looking back, leaving me sitting there completely and utterly bewildered. What on earth was she even talking about? How could anyone date a cucumber, a bitter melon, or a winter melon? And what did a freaking dinosaur have to do with any of this? The very next day, the doctor finally gave me the green light to be discharged from the hospital. After rushing through the mountain of paperwork and giving my parents a quick heads up, I grabbed my beloved fishing rod and bolted straight to the water. When I was a little kid, my dad was absolutely obsessed with fishing, and he dragged me along every single time. Back then, I honestly thought he brought me because he just loved spending time with me. It was only much later that I learned the harsh truth. My mom was just too busy to watch me, and my dad simply could not resist the call of the water. So, he literally had no other choice but to drag me along on his fishing trips. I still vividly remember the very first time we went. Terrified that I would wander off and drown, he made me sit perfectly still and watch over a fishing rod that did not even have any bait attached to it. He patted my shoulder with a dead serious expression and said, "Good boy. The second you catch a fish, Dad will buy you any toy you want." Well, in the end, that old man caught absolutely nothing for half the day. Meanwhile, the exact moment I lifted my baitless rod, I hooked a massive tilapia. My dad got so incredibly salty that he literally jumped straight into the river to scatter the bait with his bare hands. Ever since that fateful day, I became totally hooked on fishing, too. But because of a recent bet we made, I had forced myself to hold back for almost half a year without even touching a rod. The moment I arrived at my usual spot under the bridge, a few familiar faces were already camped out and waiting. I casually walked over to check on my neighbor, Uncle Frank. And sure enough, just as I expected, his bucket was completely and utterly empty. I chuckled and asked, "Uncle Frank, did you just get here?" Uncle Frank slowly turned around, rubbed his nose, and let out a super awkward laugh. Yeah, I just got here. Listen, Ethan, this spot of mine is absolutely top-notch. Come on, set up your gear and fish right here with me." I just waved him off and made a quick escape. Looking at the heavy beads of sweat rolling down his forehead, I did not even need to guess what was really going on. That poor guy had definitely been sitting there for hours. If I stayed anywhere near his bad luck, I would probably end up going home empty-handed, too. His fishing obsession ran ridiculously deep. I mean, the man had literally run away all the way from Sichuan to this town just because his wife refused to let him go fishing. I finally reached a quiet river bend, perfectly shaded by an ancient tree with a nice, comfortable stone slab to sit on right by the water. A gentle breeze brushed across the surface, sending ripples through the calm blue waves. I could feel it in my bones there was bound to be a huge catch here. So, I confidently cast my line. Fast forward 2 agonizing hours later, and I still had not caught a single damn thing. Ah, screw this. Where the hell did all the fish go? I miss you guys so much. A painfully familiar voice echoed from right behind me. Holy crap. Brother-in-law, you really are hiding out here? I snapped my head around and groaned as I saw Timmy again. Seriously, why was this annoying kid always hovering around me like some kind of inescapable ghost? Brother-in-law, why are you totally empty-handed again? Timmy smirked, casually flipping open his flashy new lighter shaped like a butterfly knife. As he squatted down right beside my bucket and shamelessly peered inside, I took a deep, centering breath. I literally just got here, okay? So what if my bucket is empty? It is not like it is my very first time. I shot him the fiercest glare I could muster. Timmy immediately threw his hands up and let out a loud, goofy laugh. Right. You only just got here. Sure thing. Oh, by the way, brother-in-law, my sister went to visit your hospital room last night. What exactly did she say to you? Because when she came back, she looked ready to murder somebody. Last night? I frowned, my mind flashing back. Last night, Chloe had literally climbed right onto my hospital bed, traced soft little circles on my bare chest, and sweetly offered to buy me some plum juice. But the second I told her I specifically wanted the Master Kong brand, she totally blew a fuse and stormed off. I honestly could not figure out what kind of mind game she was trying to pull on me. Look, your sister offered to buy me plum juice last night. I just told her I wanted the Master Kong brand. Timmy knitted his brows together in utter confusion and asked, "Okay. And then? And then your crazy sister just ran off?" "Ran off?" Timmy repeated, looking completely and utterly baffled by the whole situation. I paused for a second, trying my hardest to recall the exact details of last night just a bit more carefully. At the time, aside from Chloe's face being super flushed and her personality acting way out of character, there really did not seem to be anything else unusual going on. As for the whole plum juice thing, she literally bolted the moment she heard I wanted Master Kong. Could it seriously be that she just hated the Master Kong brand and preferred Uni President instead? Women are so weird. Ugh, what a massive hassle. Hey, what are you two losers gossiping about? A crisp, familiar voice suddenly called out from behind us. Wearing a flowing pink dress with her hair tied up in a sharp, high ponytail, Chloe strutted over step by step, keeping both of her hands playfully hidden behind her back. Timmy instantly jumped straight up like he had been shocked, planted his hands firmly on his hips, and shouted at the absolute top of his lungs, "Hey, I want some plum juice too." Chloe rolled her eyes so hard they almost got stuck, completely ignoring her younger brother as she kept walking toward me. "If you want to drink it so badly, go buy it yourself, brat." Then, her gaze shifted down to me. "Well, well, Ethan. Did you seriously come up empty-handed out here once again?" Completely blowing Timmy off, she stepped right up behind me, casually rested both of her soft hands on my shoulders, and immediately started mocking my terrible fishing skills without holding anything back. I grunted in annoyance a couple of times and aggressively shrugged my shoulders to shake her off. "Get off me! Go away! Seriously, leave me alone!" But the very next second, a sudden, blindingly sharp pain shot straight through my shoulders. Chloe, standing right behind me, squeezed the absolute living daylights out of my neck and shoulders like she was desperately venting all of her pent-up frustration. When she finally spoke, her voice carried a rare, genuine note of hurt. "You big jerk. You were the one who acted like a total creep and kissed me first, okay? Besides, I only kicked you because I mistook you for someone else. I even offered you some plum juice to make up for it. What more do you want?" Timmy suddenly poked his head out and chimed right in. "Yeah, exactly. What an ungrateful jerk, sis. If he doesn't want that plum juice, just give it to your favorite little brother. Don't give it to him. Give it to me." Hearing that, Chloe suddenly froze as reality slapped her in the face. Her younger brother was standing right there the whole time. Her face instantly exploded into a bright tomato red all the way to the tips of her ears. "What on earth are you blabbering about?" Timmy dramatically shouted at the top of his lungs. "Oh, wow! Chloe, look at you acting all high and mighty. I am your own flesh and blood. Why does your little childhood crush get to drink your plum juice, but I can't?" Chloe's face burned hotter, turning an impossible shade of crimson. Absolutely furious, she shoved Timmy hard on the shoulder. "Shut up with your nonsense. If you want to drink so badly, go beg your own childhood sweetheart for it. Now get lost." I used to come down to this spot to fish all the time, so Chloe and her goofy brother naturally tagged along quite a bit, too. The local older fishermen hanging around all recognized the chaotic sibling duo. Even though they didn't entirely catch the wild slang these kids were using, watching the two of them bicker until they were completely red in the face made every single one of them chuckle under their breath. Out of nowhere, Timmy's eyes welled up with fake tears, and he roared dramatically, "Sis, you are so biased. I can't take this. I don't even want to live anymore." With a massive splash, a giant plume of water exploded across the surface of the river. The absolute idiot had actually thrown himself straight into the water. "Timmy!" Seeing her little brother plunge into the river, Chloe's flushed face instantly went deathly pale from pure shock. With another heavy splash, she leaped right in after him without a second thought. The only major problem was, she couldn't swim either. Without a single second to think, splash! I dove straight into the water right after them. In a matter of seconds, the entire peaceful riverbank descended into absolute, screaming chaos. A handful of the old fishermen nearly had a heart attack from the fright. They hurriedly scrambled into action, plunging into the water one after another to help. Thank God the water at this specific river bend wasn't flowing too fast, and it wasn't too deep either. In the end, I managed to drag Chloe back onto the muddy bank, while Uncle Frank and a few other guys hauled Timmy ashore. Uncle Frank and the rest of the crew finally dragged a soaking wet Timmy out of the water. Chloe tearfully slapped Timmy right across his stupid face, only to instantly wrap him in a desperate, sobbing hug. Seeing his big sister break down, Timmy started bawling his eyes out right along with her. I swear to God, these two siblings were completely unbelievable. I practically shoved them both into Uncle Frank's car, and he kindly drove all of us back home. Right as we piled into the car, with the three of us crammed into the back seat, Chloe awkwardly cleared her throat. Then, she suddenly slammed her fist right down onto Timmy's head. Timmy let out a sharp howl of pain, clutching his skull while flashing a completely innocent, puppy dog look. Even so, he knew damn well what a colossally stupid stunt he'd just pulled. So, he didn't dare make another peep, just taking the beating in total silence. It was only when Chloe saw that he was finally behaving himself that her tightly furrowed brows began to slowly relax. Ethan, thank you so much," she whispered, turning around to face me. I gave a completely helpless shake of my head and gently poked her forehead. "Are you crazy? You can't even swim, yet you actually dared to jump straight into that river. You're incredibly lucky it's the dry season right now. The water, wasn't deep at all, and there were plenty of people around to help out. Otherwise, something horribly tragic could have really happened to you both today. Chloe just froze in place for a second, the edges of her beautiful eyes rimmed with an emotional, watery red. I knew perfectly well that she had only jumped in because she was worried sick about her idiot brother, so I quickly softened my tone to comfort her. Hey, it's all right. I know you were terrified for your brother, but wasn't I right there with you? Just don't be so foolishly reckless next time. Ethan, Chloe blinked her big, teary eyes, suddenly pounced right forward, and buried her warm face deep into my chest. It is so good to have you here. Her soft, warm breath drifted through my soaked shirt, sending an electrifying, tingling sensation straight down to my core. Chloe slowly lifted her head, her stunning face completely flushed. She leaned in dangerously close to my ear, whispering in a husky voice that only the two of us could hear. To repay you for today, I'm going to treat you to some of that plum juice. And no, not the Master Kong brand. It's my very own special Chloe brand. If you can figure out the hidden meaning behind that, well, let's just say nothing is off the table. Hearing this, my brain completely short-circuited. Not the Master Kong brand, but her very own brand? It wasn't until a full second later that the dirty implication finally dawned on me, and my face instantly caught fire. Wait, what did you just say? Chloe shot me a shy, teasing glare, and silently mouthed her answer back at me. What do you think, dummy? Then, completely out of nowhere, she planted a soft, lingering kiss right on my left cheek. My entire body turned stiff as a board, my face flushing a brilliant, glowing red. As I met her deeply affectionate gaze, looking into those dreamy, almond-shaped eyes, my heart started pounding like a massive jackhammer inside my chest. Chloe just stayed buried in my embrace, her cute little ears glowing bright red all the way down. So, do you want it or not? But before she could even finish her sultry sentence, Timmy suddenly let out a blood-curdling, piercing shriek from the other side of the seat. Why the heck did you just kiss Ethan? How come I never get a cut of the good stuff? I hate being the third wheel. I don't want to live anymore. That's it. I'm jumping right out of this moving car. In a split second, the romantic air inside the vehicle froze absolutely solid. Two pairs of furious eyes, glinting with a terrifying, eerie red light, flashed ominously in the quiet back seat. We looked exactly like two merciless gods of slaughter descending upon the mortal realm. Timmy immediately sensed that the atmosphere had shifted into dangerously lethal territory. He suddenly wrapped his arms around himself, letting out a terrified, forced laugh. I was just kidding, guys. You two just carry on. Ah, holy crap. Stop. I just want to go home. But there was no mercy today. The brutal, two-on-one beatdown continued relentlessly all the way back. Ever since that fateful day, I spent every single moment feeling this crazy, irresistible itch deep in my heart. My mouth felt completely dry, and my throat was totally parched, desperately searching for a refreshing cure to finally quench my thirst. Yet, Chloe seemed to go totally out of her way just to avoid me. She wouldn't pick up a single one of my calls, and she definitely wasn't replying to my text messages either. When I tried asking her brother, Timmy, about the whole situation, I found out he had been totally grounded. Their parents had confiscated his phone after catching him jumping straight into the river. It wasn't until the third day that my phone finally buzzed with a message from Chloe. It read, "Do you want to go on a seaside trip for our summer vacation? So much for avoiding me." When I saw the words, "just the two of us," my heart practically leaped out of my chest with two violent, thumping thuds. Man, traveling is great. The seaside is absolutely great. And honestly, plum juice is pretty damn great too. This whole setup was just unbelievably fantastic. I made sure to freshen myself up looking real nice. And I even brought along the brand new portable fishing rod my dad had just bought. Let me tell you, this time around, I am definitely not coming back empty-handed. Then, carrying a bunch of big bags and small luggage, I confidently headed right out the door. It just so happened that Chloe, who lived right across the hall, was completely ready too. She was wearing this gorgeous, long sheer dress, a cute floral hat on her head, and as she pulled her suitcase behind her, her long legs were faintly visible right under the sheer hemline. How in the world had I never noticed before that she had such amazingly long legs? She noticed me staring and asked, "What's the matter? Staring till you're completely dazed?" Chloe chuckled softly, stepped right forward, and playfully shoved her heavy suitcase directly into my hands. Lowering her voice to a whisper, she said, The plane tickets are already bought, and our ride is waiting right downstairs. Let's hurry up and go. We absolutely can't let my brother find out. Otherwise, that shameless brat will definitely cling to us and tag along for sure. I firmly nodded, grabbed the 2 suitcases, and hurried downstairs. After aggressively stuffing all our heavy luggage into the trunk and firmly shutting the car door behind us, I finally breathed a massive sigh of relief. Driver, we can head out now. All through the long car ride, Chloe tightly held my hand, chattering continuously about every single travel plan she had prepared for us. I've got to admit, the way she excitedly chattered on and on was just exceptionally adorable. I couldn't help it. I reached right out and gently pinched her soft cheek. Chloe completely froze for a second, stopped talking, and glanced up at me. But she surprisingly didn't pull away. Instead, she actually pulled my hand right into her warm embrace. Let me tell you a little secret. She lowered her voice again and whispered right into my ear. I booked a double room. I was totally confused by that. Not a single king-size bed, nor 2 completely separate rooms, but specifically a double room. What the heck did that even mean? I just didn't get it at all. Seeing that I had absolutely zero reaction to her big reveal, Chloe let out a very helpless sigh, poked me right in the shoulder, and lowered her voice once again. It's to keep the wet and dry areas totally separate. Get it now? Honestly, I was even more confused now. How in the world could a bed get wet? Who in their right mind has a wild water fight on a hotel bed? Chloe just gave another helpless shake of her head, quickly planted a soft kiss on my cheek, and teased, "You'll totally understand when the time comes, you big dummy." I just gave a gentle, amused snort, slowly turned my hand over, and securely laced my fingers perfectly with hers. Chloe froze for another quick second, her face blushing bright red, and she let out a quiet little hum. She didn't pull away either. Instead, she squeezed my hand back incredibly tightly. She and I had basically known each other for 18 long years. Both sets of our parents were super close friends back in their youth, and now we lived directly across the hall from one another. Needless to say, our lifelong bond ran incredibly deep. According to my folks, right when we were born, both families actually wanted to arrange a full-on betrothal for us as tiny babies. But my mother ultimately stepped in and said that if there was true destiny, we would naturally just end up together anyway. On the flip side, if there was no destiny between us, we definitely wouldn't be happy even with a forced, arranged engagement hanging over our heads. Well, this whole waiting game drove my old man completely crazy with boiling impatience. He was constantly egging me on to be a little bolder, telling me to do something crazy like buy a massive bouquet of 99 red roses for a giant proposal. But back then, how could I have possibly thought about all of that? I was already totally exhausted just from bickering with her every single day. Trying to nervously confess my deep feelings would have honestly just been way more exhausting. But fast forward to today, and I have finally come to my absolute senses. I am the only guy in the world allowed to enjoy this sweet plum juice with her here at the airport. It was such a rare, beautiful blessing not having that annoying little fly, Timmy, constantly buzzing around in my ears for once. I seriously felt so much lighter and way more relaxed than I ever had before. Chloe happily stretched her arms high into the air. Anywhere without Timmy buzzing around is just so incredibly peaceful. Sis, Ethan, wait up for me. A sudden, obnoxious roar broke out like a huge clap of thunder right behind us. Chloe and I both whipped around at the exact same time. Standing there was a hot-headed kid wearing stupid, oversized sunglasses, a bright, tacky floral shirt, and goofy beach shorts. It was that exact same hot-headed kid in the sunglasses. He proudly puffed out his scrawny chest, grinning broadly like he owned the place. "Looks like you two are pretty thrilled to finally see me, huh?" I nervously swallowed hard, carefully glancing sideways at Chloe right next to me, who genuinely looked like she was ready to murder someone on the spot. Seriously, which one of his blind eyes saw that his sister was actually thrilled to see him? Suddenly, a loud phone ringtone desperately sounded out. Chloe angrily pulled out her phone, fiercely glared at the screen, and dramatically turned around to answer the call. "Mom, didn't we firmly agree on this?" Her voice visibly trembled with absolute rage. Her harsh tone was completely filled with an immense, heartbreaking sense of grievance. From the other end of the line came the helpless sound of Chloe's mother's voice. "Ah, honey. I honestly don't know when your annoying brother overheard that you two were going on a romantic trip, but this morning he stubbornly insisted on going along with you no matter what we did. He said if we don't let him tag along, he'll jump right off the roof, she muttered. Sigh. Chloe's grip on her phone tightened until her knuckles turned white. I got it. The call clicked off, and the dead silence in the room grew terrifyingly heavy. Timmy instantly sensed the shift in the air. He glanced at me, then slowly back at her. Even as oblivious as he usually was, he knew Chloe was dangerously close to snapping. I walked right up to her, reached out, and wrapped my arm warmly around her trembling shoulders. Looking into her eyes, I said earnestly, "Hey, it's all right, babe. Don't be so mad. It's just one extra person tagging along, right? Let's just treat him like our personal errand boy." Chloe's head snapped up. Timmy's eyes practically bulged out of his skull. At the exact same second, they both shrieked, "Wait, what?" Just moments ago, Chloe looked like she was holding back tears, and it suddenly hit me. This entire trip, it was her grand plan to finally take our relationship to the next level. Between the two of us, the spark was already there. The only thing we were missing was the perfect chance to finally break the ice. She had put so much heart into this. There was absolutely no way I was going to sit back and play oblivious anymore. Staring at her deeply flushed cheeks and those slightly red-rimmed eyes, I gently cupped her face in my hands and leaned in, pressing my mouth against her soft, tender, rosy lips. It was incredibly warm and impossibly sweet. Chloe's eyes shot wide open in total shock, completely forgetting how to breathe. Timmy stood off to the side, literally holding his dropped jaw, his eyes bugging out of his head. I slowly pulled back from her, shifted toward her earlobe for a gentle, teasing bite, and then leaned right back in to capture those sweet, rosy lips one more time. Chloe's entire body went completely limp, melting into me as she let all her weight rest against my chest. "Wait, what did you just call me?" she whispered. Her face was glowing bright cherry red, practically begging to hear those words just one more time. I steadied her by the shoulders, locked my gaze directly with hers, and spoke every single syllable with crystal clarity. "I really like you, Chloe. Will you be my girlfriend?" Chloe let out the loudest, happiest squeal, jumping up and wrapping her legs securely around my waist. She clung to me like a baby koala and broke into a fit of dizzy, lovesick giggles. Off to the side, Timmy was left standing completely dumbfounded, frozen like a statue. Having a total meltdown, he screamed at the top of his lungs, "You guys! Ethan, man! I only jokingly called you my brother-in-law. I didn't think you'd actually become one." "Oh, absolutely not." Chloe suddenly snapped out of it, dropped down from my arms, and ruthlessly slammed her fist right onto Timmy's head. "Ouch!" Timmy wailed in pure agony, crumpling to the floor. "Forget it. I'm not going on this trip anymore. I am definitely not dealing with this third-wheel torture." Scrambling frantically on his hands and knees, clutching his throbbing head, he desperately tried to make a run for the door. But Chloe was way too fast. She snatched him right by the collar and let out a dark, menacing chuckle. "Oh, my sweet, dear little brother. Didn't you just threaten to jump off a roof if you couldn't come with us? Well, it just so happens your big sister is in desperate need of a loyal servant. I am absolutely sure you'd be more than happy to step up, right?" Timmy began to tremble violently. He shakily turned his head around, his bottom lip quivering in absolute terror. Sis, I swear I won't be a third wheel. I really shouldn't go." But a terrifying ice-cold glint flashed sharply across Chloe's eyes. Timmy violently shuddered. He instantly snapped his spine totally straight and threw up a stiff military salute. "Sir, yes, sir, I am going. Even if the big guy upstairs tried to stop me, I'm getting on that plane. It is my sacred duty as a little brother to serve my sister. Anyone who tries to stop me is getting a beatdown." As he babbled his panicked loyalty oath, he leaped into action and aggressively snatched up Chloe's heavy suitcase. Chloe gave a satisfied, quiet huff. She released her death grip on his collar and smugly pointed straight at my luggage. "You are in charge of carrying your dear brother-in-law's bags, too." Timmy's eyes went incredibly wide. "All righty then. Yes, ma'am. Right away." Spouting that nonsense, he hauled all 3 massive suitcases by himself and tragically dragged his feet toward baggage check-in. Watching him from behind, he looked like the most pitiful creature on earth. Chloe completely lost it and burst out laughing. "What a silly kid," I said, shaking my head with a helpless smile. I naturally reached out, intertwining my fingers with hers, and softly said, "Come on, let's go. It's time to board our flight, girlfriend." Chloe spun back around to face me, her cute little face blushing a brilliant shade of crimson as she nodded. She hugged my arm fiercely to her chest. Let me hold on tight. Boyfriend. Hours later, right after the plane touched down, Timmy legitimately looked like he was possessed by a demon of pure exhaustion. He was holding this creepy, wide-open, non-stop grin while lugging all of our heavy baggage, desperately trying to keep up our pace. Seeing how utterly dead on his feet he looked, I actually felt bad and wanted to help lighten his ridiculous load. But Chloe gripped my hand firmly, flashing a terrifyingly bright smile. "Oh, leave him be, babe. It's totally fine. My brother just absolutely loves carrying heavy luggage. Isn't that right, Timmy?" Timmy was literally dripping pools of sweat, yet he somehow forced his face into the most intensely sincere smile humanly possible. "Oh, yes. Brother-in-law. My amazing sister is completely right. I just have a burning passion for hauling luggage. Honestly, the more luggage there is, the happier my soul becomes. In fact, if anyone even tries to help me, I will get furious. I am the undisputed king of the baggage claim." The moment we arrived at our beachfront hotel, Chloe immediately booked one room with 2 twin beds and a totally separate room with just one single bed. Timmy took one quick glance at the room keys, went ghost pale, and dramatically threw his entire body flat across the front desk counter. "A 3-bedroom suite. Please, dear God, give me a 3-bedroom suite. I want to stay in the same room as my sister." Instantly, every single pair of eyes across the entire crowded lobby snapped right toward us. Chloe completely froze, blushed furiously out of pure embarrassment, and immediately lunged forward to yank Timmy off the desk. "Listen to me," she hissed through gritted teeth. "If you keep throwing a giant toddler tantrum, I swear to God I am chucking you straight into the ocean to feed the shark." Timmy's mouth snapped shut instantly, locking up tight. Once we finally tossed our bags in the rooms and took a quick breather, day 1 of our long-awaited couple's trip officially began. Mouth-watering local food, a gorgeous sunlit beach, and ice-cold coconut juice were all lined up and ready for us to enjoy. Chloe held onto my hand with a radiant smile, playfully swinging our arms back and forth in the ocean breeze. And trailing far behind us was Timmy, hunched over carrying a massive, overstuffed backpack, aggressively muttering under his breath. Though honestly, who knows what kind of crazy nonsense he was plotting. That night, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife as Chloe and I slipped into our double bedroom, leaving Timmy to shoot us an absolute death glare. He stormed off to his single room. The second we got inside, Chloe slammed the door, threw the deadbolt, and shoved a heavy table right against it to barricade us in. Her gorgeous face was burning bright red as she poked me hard in the chest. "You go hit the shower first," she ordered. "And when you come out, just wear a bathrobe." I caught her drift in a split second. Gulping down my nerves, I happily trotted straight into the bathroom like an obedient puppy. I scrubbed every single nook and cranny of my body. I swear, I had never washed myself so thoroughly in my entire life. Lathering up with the sweet-smelling body wash Chloe had handed me, I meticulously scrubbed myself down until I was practically squeaky clean, making absolutely sure there wasn't a single trace of a bad scent left on me. Satisfied with my handiwork, I finally dried off, blow-dried my hair, threw on my plush bathrobe, and slowly pushed open the bathroom door, only to find her standing there with her own robe clutched in her arms. Chloe was waiting right outside the bathroom door, looking completely breathtaking. Her face was flushed a brilliant shade of red. Before I could even get a word out, she leaned in, planted a soft kiss on my lips, and whispered, "Be a good boy. Head to the bed and wait for me," she murmured. "I'm going to go. Heat up the meal." Thump, thump. My heart skipped 2 massive beats, and I gave a shy, eager nod. I happily dove into the bed, snuggling deep under the warm blankets. From the bathroom, the steady, rhythmic splashing of the shower echoed through the room. Just hearing the sound of that running water made my entire body freeze up with insane anticipation. I honestly lost track of how much time had actually passed before the door finally clicked open. A thick cloud of hot steam billowed out, revealing her slender, gorgeous figure, slowly stepping forward, one hand playfully resting against the doorframe. Chloe looked right at me with a stunning, beaming smile. Her cheeks were painted with a rosy flush from the hot steam, and her bathrobe hung wide open, teasing a mouth-watering glimpse of the black lace camisole she wore underneath. Moving with an irresistible, feline grace, Chloe prowled toward me, closing the distance step by agonizing step. My heart hammered wildly against my ribs with every single move she made, until she was standing right there, hovering perfectly in front of me. A wicked little smirk curled at the corners of her lips. She leaned down, bringing her face to mine, and gently blew a warm, teasing breath right into my ear. "Do you want to know what separating wet and dry is really all about?" she purred. "Then you'll have to taste my plum juice first. And trust me, it's way sweeter than that cheap store-bought stuff." Bang, bang, bang! An urgent, frantic knocking suddenly shattered the mood. Chloe and I both snapped our heads toward the balcony window at the exact same time. A sneaky, utterly annoying figure was tapping away at the glass door, grinning like an absolute maniac while he clapped his hands together. I could see his mouth moving a mile a minute as he yelled, "Sis, open the door!" I took a long, frustrated breath. Seriously, how did this little brat manage to crash my party every single time? Look, if you want to go bungee jumping without a cord, please do it off someone else's balcony, okay? My dear, painfully annoying future brother-in-law. Chloe's face instantly darkened with pure, unadulterated rage. Her hands clenched into tight fists, and I could hear her knuckles cracking loudly as she squeezed them together. The balcony window slid open, and Timmy stood there offering the most awkward, sheepish smile. "Hey, sis, I kind of just accidentally fell from my balcony onto yours." "Ow, ow, ow. Man, my leg is killing me." Saying that, the kid dramatically dragged his leg, limping his way straight toward the spare bed and complaining the entire way. Just as Chloe was about to completely blow her top and murder him, a loud ringtone suddenly interrupted the chaos. It was Timmy's phone. With a heavy thud, he carelessly flopped onto the mattress and answered the call. "Hey, Mom!" "Yeah, we're just chilling in the hotel." Chloe instantly froze right in her tracks. "What? You want a video call?" "Sure thing, Mom, no problem at all." The very next second, Chloe panic-dived right into my bed, yanking the heavy covers completely over her head. Holding his phone up high, Timmy started giving his mom a virtual tour of the room. "Look, Mom, this place is pretty nice, right? Oh, and check this out, my sister and Ethan are totally sharing a blanket." That suspicious, trembling lump curled up right next to me under the covers was painfully obvious. "See? We're staying in a massive room with 2 big beds. I'm sleeping in one, and those 2 lovebirds are crashing in the other." "Oh. Hey, Mom, Ethan wants to say hi to you." Before I could even protest, the little demon shoved the camera right into my face. His mom was on the screen, greeting me with a surprisingly warm and cheerful smile. Desperately wiping a thick layer of cold sweat off my forehead, I stammered back, my voice shaking with nerves. Hello, Auntie," she chuckled. "Oh, Ethan, is the room big enough for you all? Because if it's too cramped, just go ahead and book another room, and we'll let Timmy stay by himself." More and more sweat aggressively beaded on my forehead. No, it's big enough. It's definitely big enough, Auntie. It's so big even you could come stay with us." Through the video call, his mom covered her mouth, letting out a soft, knowing chuckle. "Well, as long as it's spacious, I can rest easy," she smiled. I was just a little worried things might get too cramped for comfort. After all, a young man and a beautiful woman sharing a room, well, it's a bit hard to explain to people, isn't it? I nodded frantically. Right, absolutely. You're completely right, Auntie." By now, it wasn't just my forehead sweating, my entire body was drenched in a sheer, terrified panic. "Ethan," she continued, her tone shifting softly, "I only have this one precious daughter, so she really needs someone who will truly care for her and respect her boundaries, doesn't she?" I gulped loudly. "Yes, ma'am. You're absolutely right." She smiled. "All right, then. I've said all I needed to say. You kids make sure to go to sleep early now." "Will do." The video call finally disconnected, and I practically collapsed against the pillows, my energy completely drained. My shirt was practically glued to my skin from all the nervous sweat. "Timmy!" A sharp, muffled scream of pure rage erupted from beneath my blanket. Chloe kicked off the heavy covers and leaped violently into the air like a cornered beast. Beep! Beep! Just then, Timmy's phone suddenly rang all over again. The caller ID flashed brightly. Mom. Without missing a single beat, Chloe instantly dove right back down, frantically burying her head under the blankets once more. Timmy covered his mouth, letting out a quiet, wicked little giggle before casually answering the call. "Hey again, Mom. Did you forget something? Tell your bro, Ethan, that Mom just transferred $10,000 to his account. It's to cover the extra expenses for the 3 of you on this trip. So make sure you guys go all out and have a blast. Mom is seriously thrilled with you, Ethan." "Got it, Mom. Honestly, I think he makes a pretty awesome brother-in-law, too." Timmy and his mom were texting back and forth, line by line. Every single word they exchanged made my heart pound harder and harder in my chest. After he finally hung up the call, Timmy tucked his phone away with this incredibly smug grin. He reached over and poked Chloe, who was huddled up tightly under the heavy blankets. "Sis, I'm starving. I want some grilled skewers right now." "Get lost." "Fine. Then I'll just call Mom right back and keep chatting with her about Ethan." The blanket was whipped back in an instant. Her face was flushed, dark, red with embarrassment, but Chloe somehow managed to force a rare, painfully sweet smile for her annoying little brother. "Oh, my sweet dear little brother, you're hungry, aren't you? Don't worry, your big sister will order those fried skewers for you right away." Timmy nodded with utter satisfaction and started happily placing the order on his phone. It wasn't until he heard Chloe cracking her knuckles loudly as she sat back down that he realized he was pushing his luck, and he quickly softened his tone. "Just these mildly spicy ones will do. Oh, and toss in a bottle of beer, too." "Absolutely no beer for you." "Ah, man. I really feel like giving Mom another call right about now." Fine. I'll order it." And just like that, it wasn't long before the steaming grilled skewers and ice-cold beer arrived at our door. Chloe stubbornly stayed, curled up tight inside her cozy bed blankets, while Timmy confidently claimed a spot right by the table. He rubbed his hands together excitedly and cracked open a fresh can of beer just for himself. Then he reached out, patted me heavily on the shoulder, and smirked. "Hey, Ethan." Instinctively, I wanted to shoot a fierce glare right back at the brat. But then reality hit me. The tables had completely turned, and he held all the cards now. So, I swallowed my pride, forced a bright smile, cracked open a beer of my own, and took the initiative to clink my can against his. "Hey, Timmy, my man, if there is ever anything I can help you with, you just say the word." Timmy was still just a kid, really. A single line of cheap flattery was all it took to send his ego floating right up into the clouds. Trying his absolute best to act like a grown man, he took a massive gulp of his beer, let out this deep, dramatic exhale, and slammed the aluminum can down onto the table. "Good. You called me Timmy. So from now on, I formally acknowledge you as my brother-in-law." Honestly, after taking just 2 measly sips of alcohol, his entire face was already flushing beet red. "Brother-in-law, to be completely honest with you here, I know you are a truly great guy. But let's be real. My sister isn't exactly some elegant, refined lady either. Aside from her nasty temper and her occasional habit of bullying people, she is. All right, I guess. She smacks me upside the head whenever she damn well feels like it. But at the end of the day, she is my sister. My one and only big sister. She deserves to be loved with absolutely everything a guy has. If anyone out there ever dares to mess with her, even if it means risking my own life, I swear I will make them pay big time." Listening to him, I gave a slow, solemn nod. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of the lump hiding under the blankets on the bed, squirming just a tiny bit. "Timmy, you can rest, completely assured. If I ever do anything to hurt your sister, forget about you stepping in. I would be the very first one to tear myself apart." Timmy nodded seriously. He raised his half-empty beer can and aggressively chugged the rest of it down in a single breath. "Good man, Ethan. I trust you." By that point, his entire face was practically glowing bright red, and it was ridiculously obvious he was totally wasted. Suddenly, the rims of his eyes started tearing up. He slumped forward, resting a heavy hand on my shoulder as his voice choked up with raw emotion. "My sister, she is the single best person in this entire world. If I hand her over to you now, it feels like I won't even have my big sister anymore. You are absolutely not allowed to make her cry." As he slurred his words, huge tears and snot began streaming uncontrollably down his messy face. I was completely taken aback by his sudden breakdown, hurriedly grabbing a handful of tissues to wipe the kid's running nose. "I swear to you, I will never break her heart." Right at that tender moment, Chloe threw back her blanket and sat up straight. Her own eyes were glowing with a matching, tearful redness. She swiftly climbed out of bed and rushed over to Timmy's side, gently ruffling his messy hair as she spoke in the softest, most loving voice. "You silly, silly boy. Your big sister is always going to be your big sister. No matter what happens, you will always have me here for you." Completely overcome by his drunken feelings, Timmy just lost it, bursting into a loud, dramatic, bawling cry. Seeing him like this, Chloe could only let out a helpless, incredibly tender smile. She patiently wiped away all his tears and snot with fresh tissues, then wrapped a warm arm securely around his trembling shoulders. She sat there comforting him for a long, quiet time, until his crying finally faded away. Once he was calm, I literally had to drag his dead weight onto the spare bed. I tossed a warm blanket over him, and he passed out cold in less than a second. Chloe stood there staring affectionately at her sleeping brother, quickly wiping away her lingering tears. I stepped up behind her, gently wrapping my arms around her waist, and whispered softly into her ear, "Your brother really loves you, you know." Chloe nodded, letting out a cute little sniffle. "I love him so much, too." She warmly placed both of her hands over mine, turned around in my embrace, and pressed a gentle, sweet peck right on my lips. "And I love you too." The corners of my mouth curled up into a contented smile. I affectionately rubbed my face against her soft cheek, whispering back, "I love you so much, Chloe. Come on, let's get some sleep. We have to be up early tomorrow morning." I pulled her gently into the bed right beside me, holding her warm body close in my arms, and whispered softly against her hair, "Good night, you beautiful little dummy." Chloe snuggled happily into my chest, her voice already heavy with sleep. "Good night, dummy." The day after next, Timmy woke up in a total, groggy daze, having completely blacked out and forgotten almost everything from that emotional night. Never one to miss an opportunity, Chloe immediately busted out her phone and played the hilarious video she had recorded of him crying drunk to show him. She asked him with this wide, teasing, beaming smile exactly who the single best person in the world was. Timmy's face flushed dark, completely red, stubbornly refusing to admit what he had said even if it killed him. After a full week of wild fun and chaos by the beach, our incredible seaside getaway finally had to come to an end. On the exact day we returned, my parents and her parents just happened to be hanging out and playing cards together at our house. Gripping Chloe's hand tightly in mine, I boldly stepped up and announced the massive news that we were officially together. Every single one of them was absolutely delighted by the surprise. Suddenly, my dad stood up abruptly from the table. "Oh dear, I just remembered something. I made plans with my fishing buddies, so I've got to head out. I won't be coming back tonight." My mom froze for a split second, then quickly shot up from her seat, too. "Oh, right, I've got plans with my card group, so I won't be back tonight either." Her dad awkwardly rubbed his nose, turned to her mom, and blurted out, "Seems like we've got some urgent business back in our hometown, so we have to head back for a bit." That left poor Timmy standing there in complete bewilderment, staring at them like they had lost their minds. Without saying another single word, her dad and mom each grabbed one of Timmy's hands and started dragging him away. "Timmy, you're coming with us." Ah, finally. Peace and quiet in the house at last. Chloe's face turned completely tomato red. She shyly poked my shoulder, whispering in a low, breathy voice. "Shower first?" She bit her lower lip, cast a bashful glance at me, and gently nodded her head. The doors and windows were locked dead tight, and all electronic devices were completely switched off. Chloe leaned back against the headboard, a picture of absolute perfection, and softly motioned for me to come over. Not only that, there was also a bottle of Master Khan's plum juice sitting right there on the nightstand. I swallowed hard, my heart racing, and began making my very own special plum juice. One sip to totally stir the soul, filling the room with a rich, intoxicating fragrance. So, this was what plum juice truly meant. Chloe covered her mouth, her face totally flushed with a bashful, burning red. I chuckled softly and lowered my head. All right, with that part of the story finished, here is a super brief message. No matter where you're watching this video, please make sure to support our official storytelling channel. Thank you so much, everyone. Inside Story 3. Chloe had always dreamed that a romantic honeymoon trip meant heading to the Maldives, Bali, or any tropical island packed with white beaches, bikinis, and fresh coconut water. 3 months in advance, she was already obsessively browsing social media, saving a massive collection of couple photo pose guides, and she even secretly bought a stunning set of black lace camisoles. Look, don't ask me how I found out. I totally caught her while she was packing her luggage. So, when she finally saw the plane tickets I booked, realizing the destination was just a tiny, unnamed county town in a remote southwestern province, her reaction was as dramatic as if she had just swallowed a whole raw lemon. "Ethan, tell me the truth right now." Standing dead center in the airport departure hall, gripping her boarding pass tightly, the corner of her mouth aggressively twitched. "Did you seriously just want to go fishing again? How could that be?" I countered, putting on a deadpan, completely innocent face. "Babe, this is our honeymoon. Why on earth would I even think about fishing?" Without a word, she just pointed right at the back of the boarding pass. I flipped it over to look, and printed right there in huge bold letters were the words, "A paradise for wild fishing." Oops, that was a screenshot I took while looking up travel guides online, and I must have accidentally printed it out with the ticket info. Okay, let me explain. They say the fishing out there is absolutely incredible. She took a long, deep breath, stuffed the boarding pass into her bag, wrapped her arm tightly around mine, and flashed a sweet but utterly deadly smile. "Fine then, but I have one condition." I gulped. "What condition?" "At night, you have to do exactly whatever I say." I swallowed hard, my throat completely dry. I knew this girl way too well. Whenever she wore that exact smile, it meant something was about to go down that would make me feel both insanely excited and absolutely terrified. "Deal. I'll listen to whatever you say." After the plane touched down, we rented a rugged off-road SUV and plunged deep into the dense mountains along a ridiculously winding dirt road. The GPS was quiet at first, but then it started spouting absolute nonsense. "In 500 meters, turn right." The right side was a straight-up, terrifying cliff drop. "Continue along the current path." Yeah, right into a rushing river up ahead. Finally, the GPS just gave up entirely, the screen showing only a single line of text. "You have left the route. Please make a U-turn." Chloe stared at the dark woods outside the car window, watching them get denser and denser while the road kept getting narrower and narrower. She was honestly beginning to suspect whether her own husband was planning to kidnap her into the deep mountains and sell her off. "Ethan, are you absolutely sure this is the right way?" "Don't worry, babe, I made a solid travel plan." She looked down at my so-called travel plan, a messy, hand-drawn map with a few crooked lines scrawled in ballpoint pen, poorly annotated with things like, "Probably turn left around here," and a note saying, "Uncle Frank said there's a fork in the road." She just sighed and silently tightened her seatbelt a little bit further. The car bumped along for nearly another 2 hours, crossing over 2 massive mountain ridges and squeezing through a rocky gravel trail that was barely wide enough for a single car to pass. Finally, just as the sun was about to completely set, we pulled up to the very end of the dirt road. Standing right there was a Taoist temple, a tiny one, so unbelievably small I almost mistook it for an abandoned mountain shrine. It had faded blue roof tiles and weathered gray walls, its ancient doorstep worn completely shiny by the passage of time. Hanging right above the doorway was a cracked wooden plaque bearing 3 distinct words: "Clear Wind Temple." The old stone steps in front of the door were covered in thick green moss, and beside them stood an ancient ginkgo tree with a massive trunk so thick that even 2 people couldn't link their arms completely around it. The massive tree, totally covered in golden leaves, rustled loudly whenever the mountain wind blew, sounding almost like a crowd's applause. Chloe nervously poked her head out from behind my back and whispered, "Hubby, how come this place looks like something straight out of a martial arts novel?" "Well, we're already here." I pushed the heavy wooden door open, and with a loud squeak, the rusty hinges let out what sounded like an ancient, tired sigh. Surprisingly, the courtyard inside looked far more spacious than it ever did from the outside. The courtyard was paved with deep blue flagstones, surrounded by bizarre-looking herbs tucked into every corner. Right in the middle sat a massive stone water vat. The water was so crystal clear you could see the river pebbles at the bottom, right where a few lazy koi fish casually swished their bright tails. The heavy doors to the main hall stood half open, revealing shadowed ancient statues shrouded in curling tendrils of incense smoke. Evening had just arrived. Suddenly, a booming yet weathered voice echoed from the back of the hall. A second later, an old man dressed in a simple gray Taoist robe slowly stepped out of the shadows. His silver hair was perfectly tied up in a traditional topknot. His face was lean and totally at peace, with a long, wispy beard floating gently in the cool mountain breeze. He moved incredibly slowly, but his spine was as straight as a steel rod. Standing there, he looked exactly like an ancient pine tree, weathered and polished by centuries of time. Instinctively, Chloe shrank back a couple of feet, hiding behind me and nervously tugging at my sleeve. "Hubby, why does this priest look exactly like one of those immortal, centuries-old sages from a TV drama?" I leaned in and whispered, "Hey, stop talking nonsense. You know, supernatural beings aren't legally allowed to exist since the founding of the PRC." The old Taoist priest strolled into the courtyard. His sharp, knowing gaze swept over our faces before he offered a warm, subtle smile. It was a very faint smile, soft like the early morning mountain mist, and it made us feel completely and inexplicably at ease. My two young friends, it is getting incredibly late, and these mountain roads are treacherous. Why not stay the night here at the temple before heading out? Chloe and I instantly exchanged a look. Honestly, our original plan was to just keep driving straight through the night. The old priest's gentle gaze rested on Chloe beside me. But looking at this peaceful Taoist temple right in front of us, between this mysterious priest and the courtyard filled with strange medicinal herbs and golden ginkgo leaves, the place had an undeniable magnetic pull. It felt like staying here was exactly what we needed to do. Then we will gladly impose on your hospitality tonight, Master Taoist. I clumsily cupped my hands together in a traditional greeting. I was stiff as a typical tourist, scrambling at the last minute to show some respect. The old priest just chuckled softly, turned, and led the way to the side hall. Follow me to the guest quarters. They are quite simple and modest, so please forgive the lack of luxury. He wasn't kidding about simple and modest. We had one table, a single chair, a hard wooden bed, and an ink landscape painting hanging on the wall with just a few characters written on it. It gracefully read, "A gentle breeze slowly arrives." But man, it was spotless, squeaky clean, with neatly folded bedding and sheets that smelled exactly like fresh, sun-dried laundry. Right as I went to drop our heavy bags, Chloe had already whipped out her phone and started snapping photos. "Hubby, stand right over there." "Yeah, right in front of the window where the sunlight hits the ginkgo leaves." "Perfect. Do not move a muscle. Let me get a cool shot of your back." I obediently shuffled over. "Come on, can you not stand there looking as stiff as a literal telephone pole?" "Well, how am I supposed to stand?" I grumbled. She sighed. "Aren't you usually super chill when you go fishing? Just pretend there is a rushing river right in front of you and you are waiting for a massive fish to bite." I rolled my eyes, shoved both hands into my pockets, turned slightly, and stared out the window at the old ginkgo tree. The exact second she hit the shutter button, a single, golden ginkgo leaf fluttered through the open window and landed perfectly on my shoulder. Chloe ended up printing that photo and framing it in the absolute center of our living room. She hung it right next to that stunning picture of her in the black dress out on the balcony. Whenever we had friends over, I would deliberately walk them right up to that wall, wait for them to ask about it, and then casually brush it off, saying, "Oh, that? Yeah, back on our honeymoon, my wife totally insisted on taking that shot of me." Dinner that night was wild, mountain bamboo shoots stewed with tofu, cooked entirely from scratch by the old priest himself. We also had a plate of stir-fried wild greens, some crunchy pickled radishes, and 2 steaming bowls of brown rice. It could not have been a simpler meal. Yet somehow, every single bite was so mind-blowingly delicious we nearly swallowed our own tongues. Chloe absolutely demolished 2 huge bowls of rice. Then, suddenly remembering she was supposed to be a graceful lady, her face flushed bright red and she quickly put her chopsticks down. "Master Taoist, how exactly did you make this tofu? It is criminally good." The old man slowly stroked his beard and chuckled. "It is just ordinary mountain fare. I made this tofu fresh this morning, using nothing but the clear spring water from right behind the mountain. When the water is pure, the tofu is naturally perfect. Tell me, Master Taoist, do you live up here all by yourself?" I scanned our surroundings. Aside from a handful of basic wooden furniture and some yellowing Taoist scriptures, there was literally zero trace of modern civilization. No smartphones, no flat screens, and even the dim electric lights relied on, those tiny solar panels on the roof that barely kept the power running. Living entirely alone brings absolute peace. The old priest lifted his teacup, his eyes drifting through the curling steam to gaze out the window. Outside, golden ginkgo leaves drifted down into the twilight like a silent rain shower. Though, occasionally, the mountain blesses me with lost travelers, just like you two. When destiny calls, our paths naturally cross. Early the next morning, I was gently awoken by the sweet sound of chirping birds. Or, more accurately, I jolted awake because Chloe was violently pinching my nose shut until I was gasping for air. "Babe, wake up. The Taoist priest is already out there sweeping the courtyard, and you're still snoring." I scrambled out of bed in a total daze. Stepping into the crisp morning air, I looked out at the courtyard. Sure enough, the old priest was already up, holding a massive broom and effortlessly sweeping away the fallen leaves. Ginkgo leaves had rained down all night long. blanketing the cold ground in a thick, shimmering layer of gold. He swept with a slow, deliberate rhythm, almost like he was terrified of waking something hidden beneath. "Hey, let me give you a hand with that," I offered, walking over and grabbing the broom. Once the courtyard was completely spotless, my eyes caught a massive pile of uncut firewood stacked against the old wall, a heavy iron axe resting right next to it. Naturally, I wanted to show off. I mean, come on, standing right in front of my wife, a guy has to flex a little masculine charm, right? So, I grabbed the handle, swung that axe high, locked my eyes on the thick block resting on the stump, and brought it down with everything I had. Thwack! The blade bit deep into the wood and instantly got wedged. I yanked it once, twice, but the damn thing wouldn't budge. My face burned bright cherry red from the sheer embarrassment. The old priest just stood off to the side, calmly cradling a steaming cup of morning tea, not saying a single word. He just watched me struggle with a beaming, knowing smile. "Babe, can you even do it? You literally never work out. Are you already gassed?" Chloe leaned casually against the wooden door frame, her voice muffled around the toothbrush hanging out of her mouth. "Let me tell you, the critical damage that question does to a man's ego is second only to, 'Did you go fishing and come back completely empty-handed again?'" I sucked in a deep breath, channeled every last ounce of my willpower, and wrenched the axe down hard. Crack! The stubborn block of wood finally split perfectly down the middle. Not bad at all. The old priest gave a slight nod, his voice as incredibly flat as if he were just watching a random cloud drift by. A very solid chop. I was absolutely exhausted, leaning heavy on that wooden handle, gasping for air. Even so, I couldn't stop the corners of my mouth from curling up into a goofy grin. Chloe joked later that my expression right then looked exactly like a little kid who just won his very first gold star in kindergarten. Honestly, I thought she was blowing it way out of proportion. I clearly looked like a kid getting his second gold star. Thank you very much. Chloe probably took pity on my pathetic wood-chopping skills, so she boldly volunteered to go water the temple's vegetable patch. Barely 30 minutes later, she trudged back, feet absolutely caked in thick dirt. The hem of her dress was splattered with mud, and she was hauling a bucket that was somehow less than half full. The wise old priest took one long, slow look out at the flooded vegetable patch, then shifted his gaze back to her. He calmly stroked his long white beard and muttered, "Well, as long as the plant's got some water, I suppose it's perfectly fine." She swore up and down that he sounded exactly like a teacher trying to comfort a kid who just failed a math test with a 59. For the entire morning, the two of us busted our backs doing chores for the priest, chopping massive piles of wood, watering the struggling garden, sweeping the endless courtyard, polishing the dusty deity statues, and scrubbing down the heavy bronze incense burner. Right in the middle of the grueling work, Chloe suddenly stopped and asked, "Babe, didn't we come up to this mountain for our honeymoon?" "Yeah, we did. So why exactly are we doing free manual labor for somebody else?" I sighed, pointing straight at the stone statue she was aggressively wiping down. "Just look at it as grinding for some good karma points. What if the big guy upstairs gets happy and blesses me, so I never ever get skunked on a fishing trip again?" She rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck, and playfully chucked her dirty rag right at my face. When noon rolled around, the old priest insisted we stay for one last home-cooked meal. Afterward, he reached deep into his robes and pulled out a mysterious, tiny wooden box. The dark rosewood had a rich, ancient shine, with its four corners wrapped in copper carved like swirling clouds. He slowly popped it open, revealing an interior lined with bright, imperial yellow silk. Right in the dead center rested a pitch-black elixir pill, about the size of a marble. It practically hummed with power, glimmering with this faint, unearthly golden sheen. Leaning in closer, a sharp, incredibly pure medicinal scent hit my nose. I had no idea what rare herbs were inside, but just catching a whiff washed away all my stress, leaving absolute peace in my mind. "This is a special elixir pill I refined way back in my wild younger days." The old master gently slid the box across the table. "I certainly wouldn't call it a magical miracle cure, but it works wonders for rooting out stubborn, deep-seated illnesses. Just consider it a small token of my gratitude for helping this old man with his daily chores." I instantly panicked and hurriedly waved my hands in refusal. "Master, no way. We just did a couple of tiny favors to pass the time. Chopped a little firewood, spilled some water near your vegetables. How could we possibly accept something this incredibly valuable from you?" The old priest just looked at us and offered a calm, mysterious smile. He reached out and firmly pressed the ancient wooden box right into my palms. Take it, kid. If I just leave it sitting around here, it's only going to collect dust. Eventually, this pill has to find its way to the person fated to consume it. You two wound up on this mountain, which means this is simply destiny. He paused for a long, heavy moment. Breaking the silence, he quietly added, the ingredients inside don't actually matter. What truly matters is that it has been waiting patiently for the absolute right person. I didn't fully grasp the heavy hidden meaning behind his cryptic words, but I knew deep down I couldn't say no. The priest locked his intense eyes straight onto mine. His gaze felt strangely distant, yet carried this massive, crushing weight. It was like he wasn't looking at me, but peering straight through my soul into a future far beyond. I didn't dare refuse him again. I solemnly tucked the priceless wooden box away into my pocket and gave the old master a deep, respectful bow. He walked us out to the temple gates before quietly turning back into the ancient courtyard. The heavy wooden doors clicked shut behind us, leaving only the soft rustle of golden ginkgo leaves dancing in the wind. I gripped the steering wheel tight, fired up the engine, and started the long drive back down the mountain, completely unaware of how everything was about to change. We finally caught a break. After winding past two massive mountain ridges right next to a river valley, we stumbled on this wide-open riverbank, the absolute perfect spot to pitch our tent. The water was insane, so crystal clear you could count every single pebble on the bottom. And lining both sides, this thick, gorgeous white birch forest that felt like something straight out of a fairy tale. Whenever the wind hit, the leaves would rustle so loud it sounded like thousands of tiny hands clapping for us. Once the sun dipped down, we got a crackling campfire going right outside. And then, like a total magician, Chloe whipped out a massive bag of marshmallows and a couple of metal skewers from the trunk. Just the two of us huddled close around the blazing fire, toasting those fluffy little clouds of sugar. The firelight caught her face perfectly. It gave her nose this adorable warm glow, and there was a tiny smudge of melted syrup stuck to her lips, glistening in the dark. I couldn't help myself. I leaned in and gently brushed my lips against hers. So sweet, I whispered. Duh, she laughed. Marshmallows are obviously sweet. I was talking about you, I shot back. Her face instantly flushed beet red in the firelight, looking exactly like an over-roasted marshmallow. But right as I was about to go in for round two, bam! A pair of blinding headlights suddenly swept across the mountain road just a few yards away. The car rolled closer and parked less than 50 meters from our spot. Chloe let out this dramatic, regretful sigh as a man and a woman stepped out of the vehicle. The guy had a hat pulled low. He was pretty lean, slender, but the way he walked was slow, calculated, and rock steady. The woman next to him was wearing a sleek windbreaker, giving off total boss vibes. Her face was so flawlessly exquisite, she literally looked like she'd just stepped off a Vogue cover. But man, her aura was freezing, like absolute ice queen energy. The kind of vibe that completely kills any urge you have to just walk up and say hi. Of course, Chloe couldn't care less if she was an ice queen. My girl is a natural-born social butterfly. She immediately jumped up and started waving like crazy. Hey there, she yelled out. You guys can camp over here. The ground's totally flat. Come join us. The woman actually froze. She probably hadn't met anyone that fiercely outgoing in her entire life. She turned, whispered something to the guy, and then they both headed our way. So sorry to intrude, the woman said. Her voice was totally calm, incredibly flat, but strictly polite. My name's Julia. She glanced back at the guy who was now pulling gear out of their trunk. And that's my husband, Julian. Julian peeked his head out from behind the car and gave us a quick wave. He was wearing this baseball cap with the brim pulled aggressively low. But when the firelight caught him, I noticed his face was shockingly pale. Not just fair-skinned, but a sickly, bloodless kind of pale. Pretty soon, all four of us were chilling around the campfire. Julia dragged over a cooler from their trunk, popping it open to reveal perfectly stacked boxes of homemade sandwiches and pre-sliced fruit. I actually prepped these before we hit the road, she said, passing a box of sandwiches straight over to Chloe. It's way healthier than eating instant ramen on the road. Chloe happily grabbed one, took a massive bite, and her eyes instantly lit up like fireworks. Oh my God, so good. Did you make these yourself, Julia? Is this avocado with Greek yogurt and a splash of lemon juice? Girl, you have to teach me your ways. My husband over here only knows how to inhale instant ramen and eggs every single day. I swear, I'm terrified he's going to end up with crazy high blood pressure. Julia glanced at her, and for the first time, the corners of her mouth slightly curled up. It was honestly the most genuine, relaxed smile I'd seen from her all night. I'll write down the recipe for you later, she offered softly. The girls clicked instantly and started talking up a storm, basically leaving Julian and me in the dust. So, we just started our own bro talk on the sidelines. I casually asked how long they'd been on the road. He said it had been about a week just driving, stopping wherever, zero fixed destination. But when he spoke, his voice was incredibly soft. He kept pausing to catch his breath, like he was desperately trying to conserve some kind of precious fuel. Feeling under the weather? I asked him straight up. He shot me this look, totally analyzing if I was just making polite small talk or actually cared. Then, he just gave me this faint little smile. It was weak, yeah, but completely open and honest. Just an old chronic issue, he sighed. Figured hitting the open road beats being locked up in some sterile hospital room. He didn't drop a diagnosis, and I definitely wasn't going to push it. But I caught on to something real quick. Every few minutes, Julia's eyes would dart straight to Julian. It wasn't overbearing, but every single time she checked on him, her stare lingered just a second longer than normal. It was like she was quietly running vitals, checking his breathing, his color, how he was sitting. It wasn't some creepy surveillance either. It was raw, instinctive care, burned into her brain from years of exhausting worry. Later that night, with our tents pitched side by side, the valley wind turned brutally freezing. Chloe and I had bailed into our tent pretty early, but right through the thin nylon walls, we could perfectly hear our neighbors whispering. "Are you cold? I've got another blanket in the bag." "I'm not cold." "Then why are your hands freezing again? Come here." There was this soft rustling of fabric, followed by total silence. Then Julian mumbled something impossibly soft. A beat passed, and Julia let out this quiet chuckle, one she tried so hard to hide, but it just spilled over with helpless, endless love. Chloe shifted over in the dark, burying her warm face right into my chest. "Hubby," she mumbled into my shirt, "is Julian's health really bad? I swear Dr. Julia keeps staring at him without even realizing it, like she's hovering over a fragile patient." "Oh, you caught that too?" I whispered back. "Duh. I'm not blind," she scoffed softly. "Plus, Dr. Julia is literally a doctor, right? And let me tell you, when a doctor watches someone like that, they're either family, or they're the one desperately trying to keep them alive. If she's family, then his condition must be deadly serious." I stayed silent for a moment, recalling what happened earlier today by the stream when Julian bent down to wash his face. When he stood up, he wobbled slightly, and Julia's hand shot out to support him almost instantaneously. That movement was way too fast, too practiced, like it had been rehearsed 10,000 times. She wasn't overreacting. Her body had already built an invisible safety zone around him, ready to catch him at any given moment. I just feel like it wasn't easy for those two to end up together. How do you know? Because they look at each other like they deeply cherish one another, like they almost lost each other once before. Chloe fell quiet for a second, then rustled around as she sat up, pulling that rosewood box from her backpack. "Hubby, I really want to give this to them." "Are you absolutely sure?" She hugged the wooden box tightly, her eyes shining bright in the pitch dark. "We're perfectly healthy and full of energy. If we keep it, it'll just gather dust in some drawer. But what if it's actually useful to them? What if?" I didn't say a single word. I just pulled her over and planted a gentle kiss right on top of her head. That was my Chloe. Normally, over a single bottle of plum juice, she could bicker and haggle with me endlessly. But when encountering something like this, she wouldn't hesitate for a single second. The very next morning, while Julian went to the stream to wash his face, Chloe shoved the wooden box right into Julia's hands. She spoke incredibly fast, almost like she was afraid she'd change her own mind. "This was given to us by a Taoist priest when we passed by a temple a couple of days ago. He swore it could help with certain stubborn illnesses. The two of us are healthy and kicking, so we honestly have zero use for it. You should give it to Julian and just see how it goes." "What if it actually works?" Julia took the wooden box, opened it up, and took a quick sniff of the elixir pill inside. Her fingers tightened slightly, and her entire presence suddenly shifted. Only much later did I find out that she was a top-tier medical expert specializing in lymphoma. Just from the scent alone, she could easily tell that the pill's ingredients were totally extraordinary. A few of the medicinal herbs inside were only listed in ancient medical texts, long believed to have been lost to time. This is way too valuable. Her usually steady voice visibly trembled. Oh, come on now. What's valuable or not? Chloe waved her hand in a totally carefree manner. Just consider it making a new friend. By the way, sis, how on earth do you take care of your skin? How is it so amazing? What kind of skincare products do you usually use? Julia was totally taken aback by her sudden topic change. Medical-grade Vaseline. Vaseline? Chloe clutched her chest. Her expression looked as if she had just suffered a tremendous, life-altering shock. You're kidding me! You got skin like that from just Vaseline and sunscreen. It has to be applied every single day. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Sunscreen is the exact step I skip the most often. Hubby, are you listening to this? Dr. Julia can look this insanely beautiful just using Vaseline, while I slap on a massive pile of bottles and jars every single day and still break out constantly. Julia looked at her, the corners of her lips curling up into a sudden smile. I'll write down a list for you later. It doesn't need to be expensive. Just use whatever suits you. Chloe grabbed her hand in an instant, her eyes brimming with dramatic tears. From now on, you're my real sister. Closer than a real sister. My biological younger brother only knows how to piss me off every single day. You're 10,000 times more reliable than him. Julian and I sat on a rock not far away, watching the two women turn from total strangers into best friends in a mere 5 minutes. Julian shook his head, a warm smile touching his pale lips. Your wife is a total social butterfly, while mine is so reserved. How did you even manage to win her over? It's a really long story. Hey, we have all night. He glanced at me, then pushed up the brim of his cap, revealing eyes that were slightly sunken from illness, yet still remarkably bright and clear. We were high school classmates. I was the one who pursued her, chased her relentlessly for 2.5 years. Later, when I fell ill, I tried to push her away, but she absolutely refused to leave. His account was brutally brief. No messy details, no dramatic embellishments. Yet, I understood him completely. She even changed her college plans for you, didn't she? I just blurted it out. He froze for a split second. How did you know? Just a lucky guess. I looked off into the distance at Julia, who was currently talking in low, intimate tones with Chloe. As she spoke, Chloe nodded repeatedly. Their two heads leaned close together, separated only by the warm glow of a single camping lantern. Because last night in the tent, while you were dead asleep, your wife said something. She said, "The absolute luckiest thing in my entire life is that you're still alive and that I can still be right here by your side." The campfire crackled with a sudden loud pop. Julian quietly lowered his head and pressed his cap rim back down. And only after a long, heavy pause did he finally speak, his voice thick and slightly raspy. She is my true medicine. Exactly 2 months later, a notification popped up on Chloe's phone. It was a message sent by Julia, a clear photo of a complete blood count report. Besides several key indicators, the normal reference ranges were clearly marked, followed below by 3 simple words. He's getting better. Then came another message right after. Julian asked me to pass a message to Ethan. He says he owes you guys a fish. A picture of his blood test results flashed on my screen, followed by a text that made my heart skip a beat. He wanted to take me fishing down by his favorite river. I was mid-bite into an apple when I read it. My jaw dropped so hard the apple almost hit the floor. Was he for real? He actually said he wants to take me fishing. Chloe just burst out laughing, aggressively shoving her phone screen right into my face. See for yourself! Julia just sent another text. He even guaranteed he won't come back empty-handed this time. I just stood there in total silence for a second, tossed my apple core straight into the trash, dusted off my hands, and looked at her dead in the eye. Chloe, send me the pin for that Taoist temple. Next month we are definitely heading back. Head back for what? She asked. To give a massive thank you to that priest. And while we are at it, I am going to beg him for a magic potion to cure my chronic terrible luck at fishing. I quickly tacked on another demand. Oh, and ask him if he has a pill that cures the absolute curse of coming back completely empty-handed. Chloe just grabbed a throw pillow off the couch and chucked it right at my head. Fast forward half a year later, the 4 of us finally reunited at the foot of that exact mountain, driving back to Clearwind Temple together. When we arrived, the ancient wooden doors of the temple were left completely unlatched. Golden ginkgo leaves blanketed the entire courtyard. The vibrant green moss clinging to the stone steps had grown at least a full layer thicker than it was 6 months ago. Pushing open those heavy doors and stepping inside, a wave of profound peace washed over us. The little fish were still swimming happily inside their ancient stone vat, and the patch of medicinal herbs was growing even more lush and vibrant than before. Beside it, an envelope rested, bearing just a few cryptic words. To the 4 fated guests, right in front of the towering deity statues inside the main hall, someone had left behind exactly 4 sweeping lines of traditional calligraphy. Resting on the weathered wooden table beside them was a letter, its envelope simply addressed to the 4 fated ones. With slightly trembling hands, Julian carefully unfolded the crisp paper. The letter contained only 4 lines of elegant calligraphy. You could tell the dark ink was still completely fresh. Medicine only treats those it is fated to heal, never perfectly healthy bodies. When the threads of fate finally end, I depart deep into the mountains. The sweeping wind holds back absolutely no traveler. Julia neatly folded the mysterious letter and gently placed it right back onto the table. At the bottom corner, there was just a tiny, beautifully hand-drawn ginkgo leaf. After Julia gently smoothed out the paper and returned it, she slowly turned to look at Julian, her voice incredibly soft. "How are you feeling right now?" "I feel fantastic," he said with a bright, genuine smile. "Honestly, better than I have ever felt in my entire life." Benny shot a confident smirk right at me. "Come on, let us go. It is finally time to fish. My grand promise from last time still has not been fulfilled. Are you absolutely sure you can handle this? Whoever loses is totally in charge of grilling all the fish tonight." I let out a low, cold snicker. "You probably have no idea, my friend, but my fishing skills have leveled up by absolute leaps and bounds over the last 6 months. The last time I was out here, I actually broke my humiliating, long-running streak of coming back totally empty-handed. Wait, that was only because there were literally 0 fish in the river to begin with, right?" Chloe teased, walking at the very back with her arm playfully linked through Julia's. Completely ignoring our ridiculous banter, she leaned in super close to Julia's ear, dropping her voice to a sneaky whisper. "Hey sis, you have got to tell me the absolute truth. Did that miraculous magic pill actually do the trick? Or was it just the Vaseline doing all the heavy lifting?" Hearing that, Julia actually let out a genuine, joyful laugh. "Come over to my place some other day, and I promise I will walk you through my entire top-secret skincare routine from start to finish." Later that afternoon, Julian and I sat intensely by the bubbling stream for 3 straight hours, and miraculously, our woven fish basket was finally no longer empty. We had been parked by that stream for 3 whole hours, and right after he caught his, I followed up instantly, reeling in a massive catch of the exact same size. He was the very first to reel in a massive half-pound stone base, and we both blurted out at the exact same time, "I totally let you catch that one." We immediately snapped our mouths shut and just burst out laughing. Chloe was watching us from a distance by the camping tent, playfully nudging her chin in our direction to get Julia's attention. "Just look at those 2 absolute dummies over there." Julia took a quick glance at us and calmly went back to peeling her fresh apple. Though, I have to admit, your dummy is slightly smarter than mine. "Are you for real right now?" Chloe completely froze for a split second before totally collapsing backward into her folding chair, laughing her head off. She laughed hysterically for what felt like forever before she could finally catch her breath. "Oh my God, I am so done for. Completely done for. You totally caught the bug from me. Now even you are cracking dry jokes." "Sure, mine might actually be a little bit smarter than yours," Julia said with a cheeky grin, picking up another juicy apple slice for herself before letting out a sudden unladylike snort. She then added very calmly, "But honestly, that is pretty damn nice." Deep in the autumn valley, the ancient ginkgo trees glowed a brilliant golden hue. The bubbling stream water was absolutely crystal clear, until someone yelled, "Oh no! Oh hell no!" The crisp mountain air was completely filled with the mouth-watering aroma of sizzling grilled fish and the loud, echoing laughter of the 4 of us. I sat quietly on a smooth rock right by the stream, just watching in pure awe as Julian managed to haul up a wildly thrashing second fish from the water. I sat there soaking in the vibrant, healthy color finally returning to his face, and watching Chloe and Julia leaning their heads close together in the distance, deeply studying what looked like some secret skincare manual. All of a sudden, the wise words of that old Taoist priest echoed in my mind. What this mysterious elixir actually is does not matter. What truly matters is that it is patient enough to wait for the exact right person. Looking at them now, I truly think this miraculous pill finally found the exact person it had been waiting for all along. And against all odds, we finally found what we had been desperately waiting for, too. Side story number 1. 3 rapid heartbeats caught in the warm morning light. On the very first day Chloe permanently moved into my place, she showed up dragging only a single beat-up suitcase. As for the rest of her stuff, well, in her own cheeky words, what is yours is officially mine, and what is mine is, obviously, still mine. Next up, a mini side story. 3 loud heartbeats echoing in the soft morning light. I was busy clearing out some extra space for her in the big living room closet at the exact time she said it. And hearing those exact words slip from her lips made my hands shake so violently I almost completely ripped the heavy closet door right off its hinges. And trust me, it was not because I cared about the stupid closet. It hit me all at once. From today on, every single thing this woman owned would be living right alongside mine. Her dresses would be hanging right there next to my shirts. Her skincare bottles would completely take over the bathroom counter. And she'd be lying right beside me, every single night. I'd be clearing out space for her in the bedroom closet and warming her freezing cold feet against my calves. What are you just standing there spaced out for? Wearing those ridiculously fluffy bunny slippers of hers, she shuffled into the bedroom, tilting her head at me. Are you having second thoughts? No way. I flat out denied it. Then why do you look so dead serious staring into the closet? I'm just thinking about how to organize the space properly. She narrowed her eyes and leaned in close, staring right into my face for 3 seconds straight, before giving me this look that said she saw right through my bluff. You're thinking, man, you'll never have your sweet bachelor freedom ever again, aren't you? Before I could even defend myself, she was already up on her tiptoes, grabbing both my cheeks and stretching them out. Too late. You're stuck with me for the rest of your life. Just accept your fate, Mr. Ethan. I grimaced as she stretched my face, but honestly, deep down in my heart, it felt as warm and soft as caramel melting in the sun. On the very first morning of our new life together, I was woken up by an incredible smell. Not an annoying alarm clock, not the birds chirping, just the mouth-watering scent of eggs sizzling in a hot pan. Still half asleep, I rolled over and reached out to pull her close, but just grabbed empty air. That woke me up immediately. Chloe wasn't in bed. I slid into my slippers, shuffled over to the kitchen doorway, and just leaned against the frame, totally mesmerized. She had her back to me, standing right there at the stove, wearing my oversized white dress shirt. It totally swallowed her up. The sleeves were rolled up to her elbows, the hem barely reaching her upper thighs, showing off her long, gorgeous legs. Her hair was tossed up in a messy bun, with a few loose strands falling softly against the back of her neck, catching the morning light and glowing a beautiful pale gold. Spatula in one hand, gripping the skillet with the other, she was humming a song completely off-key while birds chirped cheerfully outside. The eggs popped and sizzled on the burner, sending up these tiny, delicious wisps of smoke from the pan. Sunlight peeked through the blinds, painting perfect little stripes of light and shadow across her cheek. In that one split second, it hit me this is what domestic bliss actually feels like. It's waking up to the woman you love, wearing your shirt, frying you an egg with perfectly crispy edges. Oh, you're awake. She didn't even look back, probably hearing me shuffle in. Go grab the plates and forks. It'll be done in a sec. And hey, no sneaking bites, I'm watching you. Instead, I stepped up behind her, wrapping my arms tight around her waist and resting my chin softly on the top of her head. She smelled like last night's sweet body wash mixed with that savory hint of cooking smoke. Those two scents blending together, that was exactly what home smelled like to me now. Chloe, I murmured, closing my eyes. What? She replied. But the tips of her ears were already turning bright red. She gave me a gentle nudge with her elbow. Knock off the sweet talk first thing in the morning, will you? Hurry up and set the table. The eggs are gonna burn. I chuckled. Even if they're burnt to a crisp, I'd still eat them. Damn right, you'll eat them. I made them. You wouldn't dare refuse. The fried eggs that morning actually were a little burnt around the edges. The whites were super crispy, but the yolk was still perfectly runny, spilling out slowly the second I poked it with my chopsticks. Resting her chin on her hands, she just happily watched me eat. Honestly, I practically inhaled 3 of them. Sitting right across from me, leaning over her coffee cup, she watched me with her eyes curving into these adorable little crescent moons. So, how is it? I teased. Ah, it's all right. Just all right? She playfully scoffed. I poured my heart into that. I chuckled, quickly correcting myself. Okay, okay. It's absolutely delicious. Seriously, it's the best fried egg I've ever had in my life. Even a 3-star Michelin chef would drop to their knees and beg you to be their master. Now that's more like it. Looking totally satisfied, she took a sip from her mug, leaving a cute little milk mustache right on her upper lip. Then, like a light bulb just went off, she slammed her cup down and stared at me dead serious. Oh, right. Julia and Julian are coming over for dinner in a few days. I told you about that, right? Did you even read the text I sent? Yeah, I read it. Honestly, ever since we got back from our honeymoon trip, Julia and Julian had become pretty frequent guests at our place. Every other day, those two would randomly drive over just to shamelessly mooch a free meal off us. To be more precise, Julia just loved crashing our dinners. It was basically a regular, casual weekend routine for them to just drop in. So, what's the plan for today? I asked. Grocery shopping. The fridge is totally empty, and Julia demanded fish with pickled mustard greens for tonight. And I promised her we'd make it. I raised an eyebrow. Wait, you don't even know how to cook that. Why on earth did you promise her if you have no clue how to make it? She just looked at me with this absolute, unbeatable confidence. Duh, because you know how. At the supermarket, Chloe pushed the shopping cart way out in front, playfully tossing random items into the basket every single time we passed an aisle. I trailed right behind her, quietly putting the things back on the shelves, one by one. These potato chips are pure junk food, I sighed. I'm only going to eat one bag, she pleaded. You literally said the exact same thing last time, and then you devoured 3 whole bags. Well, that's because they taste amazing. Put them back in. No way. An elderly couple happened to stroll by right beside us. The sweet old lady took one look at us, smiled warmly, and whispered to her husband, "Oh, look at them." Being young is just so nice, isn't it? The old gentleman chuckled, adjusting his reading glasses. I was exactly like that when I was young, too. Oh, really? Did you completely forget how you fought me over a bottle of soy sauce? You nearly knocked over the entire display shelf. Hearing that, Chloe proudly linked her arm tight through mine. She beamed at the elderly couple, and then, the second I turned my head away, she threw those damn potato chips right back into the shopping cart. We passed through the fresh produce area, with her fiercely protecting her stash, as she began planning out our dinner menu. I just stood there, watching her pick up a tomato, hold it up to the light, and then pick up another one just to carefully compare. When she finally shrugged and put both of them into the bag, it suddenly hit me. The act of grocery shopping itself was a lot like marriage. It was exactly like that tricky mango sago dessert Julia had taught her last time. It's all about picking and choosing, occasionally bickering over silly things, and occasionally just compromising. Yet, the ultimate goal is simply to go back home and cook a warm, comforting meal for the two of you to share together. On the drive back, she leaned her head gently on my shoulder, happily clutching that bag of potato chips she had fought so repeatedly to protect, and began mapping out the rest of the dinner menu. You make the pickled cabbage fish, you make the cold cucumber salad, and you absolutely have to make the sweet and sour pork ribs. Whoa. Wait a minute there, I interrupted. Then what exactly are you making? I am making dessert. That mango sago soup Julia taught me last time. Yeah. Even though when you made it last time, the sago literally turned into mush. Hey, that definitely will not happen this time. I settled into the living room, scrolling idly through my phone for a while. You said the exact same thing when you tried to make those cola chicken wings last time. That fateful day, the kitchen was almost burned straight to the ground by her. Ethan, do you seriously want to sleep on the sofa tonight? If not, then shut your mouth. Once we finally arrived home, Chloe eagerly volunteered to prep all the ingredients in advance. I sat there in the living room, mindlessly scrolling through my phone for a couple of pages, when I suddenly felt like something wasn't quite right. The kitchen was way too quiet. There were absolutely no screams, no sounds of a metal spatula clattering to the floor, and no desperate cries for help like, "Hubby, why won't this stove knob turn?" It was suspiciously, terrifyingly quiet. I slowly put down my phone, tiptoed quietly over to the kitchen doorway, and saw her completely and utterly focused on cutting up those mangoes. Golden sunlight poured in through the window, gently falling on the side of her face and casting a tiny, beautiful shadow beneath her eyelashes. She was cutting them so slowly and so incredibly earnestly. Even though her knife skills honestly weren't exceptionally great, Every single piece she cut was actually roughly similar in size. After she finally finished, she took a step back, examined her little masterpiece for a moment, and nodded with pure satisfaction. Then, she quickly pulled out her phone and snapped a proud photo. Before we ever got married, I honestly thought the ultimate, heart-stopping moment of my life was seeing her in that beautiful white veil at our wedding, walking down the aisle toward me. But it was only later that I realized a truly heart-fluttering moment could just be her, standing right there in our kitchen. It could just come from watching her in the quiet of a lazy afternoon. "Hey, what are you peeking at?" She suddenly spun around and caught me completely red-handed. "I am not peeking. I am looking at you right out in the open." "Well, have you looked enough yet? If you have looked enough, come over here and help me peel this garlic." "Wait, didn't you just say I would be the one making all the dishes?" "Well, I changed my mind. You peel the garlic, and I will supervise." Later, right when my pickled cabbage fish was about halfway done, the front doorbell suddenly rang. Julia and Julian were standing right there at the door, happily carrying a fancy bottle of wine and a sweet little cake box in their hands. Julia was wearing a really simple knit sweater and casual pants, her soft hair draped so effortlessly over her shoulders. Her complexion was glowing, looking even better and healthier than the very last time I saw her. Julian followed right behind her. His face was rosy and full of life, looking absolutely nothing like that fragile patient from just a few months ago who needed constant hospital checkups. "You guys are our guests. Why on earth did you bring stuff with you?" Chloe eagerly took the cake box, peeked inside out of the corner of her eye, and practically squealed. "Oh my gosh, chestnut cake! Sis, how did you even know I wanted to eat this?" "Chloe, you mentioned it no less than 10 times in our group chat. Honestly, it would be a lot harder not to remember." Julia neatly hung up her coat, swept a quick, analyzing glance across our kitchen, and raised her eyebrows slightly. "Is your kitchen somehow still intact?" "Of course it is, perfectly intact." Chloe stood tall with her hands proudly on her hips. "I am the head chef today." "Well, partial head chef. Ethan is fully in charge of the main dishes, and I am in charge of the dessert. It is a very clear division of labor." "Clear division of labor," Julia repeated, her tone completely deadpan and calm. "So, the mango sago soup is tonight's dessert." Hearing this, Chloe awkwardly stuffed a piece of trash into her pocket, because you literally have mango seeds stuck all over your apron. And on that bright sticky note slapped right onto the fridge door, it clearly says Sago Soup Tutorial. Step 3. Turn off the heat and let it simmer for 15 minutes. Chloe nervously looked down at her messy apron, then looked back up at the damning fridge note, and with a fiercely blushing face, she ripped the sticky note right off, crushed it into a tight ball, and shoved it deep into her pocket. Julian casually slipped into his house shoes and strolled over, setting the wine down on the dining table. It was a crisp bottle of white wine, while the other container he brought held a mysterious milky white mixture. "Last time you guys came over, didn't you say you really wanted to try this exact kind?" he asked with a warm smile. "I just happened to pass by a liquor store, so I grabbed it." He took a quick, curious glance at the chaotic scene unfolding inside the kitchen. 2 heavy pots were sitting on the blazing stove. One was bubbling away aggressively, giving off the mouth-watering, spicy aroma of pickled cabbage fish, while the other was boiling that strange, milky white liquid. Right beside them sat a plate of thinly sliced fish, stacked perfectly next to a bowl of freshly prepared dipping sauce. Then, he cast a sharp glance at me. "Need some backup in there? Can you even cook?" I shot back. "No, but I can peel garlic," he replied smoothly. "Well, you're already way better at this than my husband," Chloe instantly yelled out, seizing the chance to complain. "He peels the garlic so unevenly, I have to go over his work every single time." She whined. "Chloe, speak with a clear conscience here," I argued, defending my honor. "Who was the one last time who peeled the garlic and tossed it right into the sizzling pot without even taking the skin off?" "I'm not listening to you," she sang out playfully. "I am absolutely not listening." Julia leaned casually against the kitchen door frame, quietly watching us bicker like an old married couple. A rare, gentle smile curled the corners of her lips. "Do you want me to jump in and help?" Julia offered. "No need. No need at all," Chloe insisted, gently pushing her back out into the hall. "You are our honored guest. Just sit down, relax, and wait for the food. Ethan, pour some water for Sis and Julian. He can't drink tea right now." Julian nodded in agreement. "I already had a strong cup this afternoon. If I drink any more, I'll be tossing and turning all night, so just warm water is perfectly fine." Julia glanced at him without saying a single word. Yet, a fleeting trace of helpless fondness so subtle it was almost invisible softly passed through her eyes. I poured 4 glasses of warm water and carefully carried them over to the guests. Julia sat comfortably on the plush sofa, letting her gaze wander around our cozy living room. Her eyes lingered for a moment on the crumpled potato chip bag left on the couch, then drifted over to the 2 very different magazines laid side by side on the coffee table. One was a rugged fishing magazine, and the other was a glossy fashion editorial, before her gaze finally landed softly on the photo frame sitting right next to the TV stand. Inside that frame was a miniature, curated version of the massive photo wall Chloe had proudly put together in our living room, and right there in the dead center was the breathtaking photo we took during our trip to the Clear Wind Temple. "That photo turned out really beautifully," she murmured softly. I followed her gaze over to the picture, remembering how the ginkgo leaves were a brilliant, glowing golden under the harsh sunlight. I had stood right in front of the rustic window, a single golden leaf resting gently on my shoulder like a badge of honor. The sharp profile of my face was contoured just perfectly by the radiant light. Chloe had absolutely insisted on taking it for me, boldly claiming she had to snap several dozen shots before she was finally satisfied with the masterpiece. "Her photography skills are actually pretty top tier," I bragged with a smirk. "But let's be honest, it's mainly because I gave her such a flawless foundation to work with." Julia shot me a side-eye glance, not bothering to waste her breath, replying, but the teasing meaning in her eyes was crystal clear. "You two really are a match made in heaven." With the profile of my face outlined perfectly by the light in my memories, my thoughts were suddenly interrupted. At this exact moment, Chloe poked her head out from the kitchen, proudly holding a single clove of garlic up high in the air. There was a faint, rosy flush on her cheeks from the suffocating cooking smoke. "It's mostly because I had such a naturally good subject," she chimed in, backing up my ego. "Hubby, is that garlic peeled yet? The fish is about to go right into the boiling pot. Look, Julian peels it way faster than you ever could. Why don't you swallow your pride and take him as your master?" she teased, her face still carrying that faint flush from the intense heat of the kitchen fires. Before I could even fire back a witty retort, her gaze had already swept past me, landing squarely on the massive bowl of perfectly peeled garlic in Julian's steady hands. "Whoa, Julian really does peel way faster than you. Seriously, why don't you beg him to take you as his disciple? He clearly just has a God-given natural gift for it." I stubbornly crossed my arms and retorted, "Hey, I'm just taking a slow and steady tactical approach over here." Julian just smiled warmly, utterly unfazed, and handed his full bowl over, smoothly taking the remaining unpeeled garlic right out of my hands to finish the job for me. I had to swallow my pride and admit it, his technique for peeling garlic was indeed far more adept and fiercely precise than mine could ever be. But I knew deep down it wasn't some magical natural gift. The truth was far heavier. During those dark, grueling years he spent trapped in a hospital ward desperately looking after Julia, he had been forced to learn how to do all sorts of tedious, minor chores that didn't require much physical strength. Opportunities like perfectly peeling a clove of garlic had become his second nature, a quiet testament to his absolute devotion. Peeling garlic, prepping vegetables, and carefully shaving an entire apple in one unbroken strip, he mastered it all. Soon enough, when the steaming pickled cabbage fish was finally served onto the table, the whole living room exploded with the aggressive, mouth-watering fragrance of Sichuan peppercorns and roasted dried chili peppers. The thinly sliced fish curled up slightly in the rich, piping hot, dangerously sour broth. The meat was so incredibly tender that it practically melted, breaking apart with just a gentle pinch of the chopsticks. Beside it, the cold cucumber salad was heavily dressed with that special, tangy sauce Chloe loved to mix. She had definitely been too heavy-handed and added way too much vinegar again, making it intensely, sharply sour on the tongue. Yet somehow, when paired with the sweat-inducingly spicy pickled cabbage fish, the overwhelming flavors clashed beautifully and turned out absolutely perfect. Then came the true star of the dinner table, the secret sweet and sour pork ribs, straight from my mom's legendary vault of recipes. I still remember the very first time Chloe ever ate it. She practically gnawed the meat off 5 ribs in a row like a starving wolf, completely shameless, and then boldly declared that this magical recipe was one of the main reasons she agreed to marry me. When she dropped that bombshell, I had laughed and asked her right then, "Are there really any other reasons? Or was it just the food?" "Of course there are," she had shot back instantly. "You're undeniably handsome. Your family has an endless empire of dried fish, and you actually know how to make these incredible sweet and sour pork ribs. Honestly, these 3 points combined barely give you a passing grade. Just barely. I had rolled my eyes at her sass. Fine then, whatever. Hey, it's not barely. It's way above passing. She had quickly backtracked in panic. All right, I get it, I chuckled. Let's just shut up and eat. Come on, dig in. And when the grand finale, the sweet mango sago soup, was finally brought out to the table, its presentation was surprisingly elegant and genuinely decent. The delicate sago pearls were perfectly crystal clear, and the fresh, ripe mango was expertly cut into even little cubes, all floating beautifully in a sea of rich coconut milk. It was served gracefully in 4 small bowls, with a single, vibrant mint leaf placed carefully beside each one as the ultimate finishing touch. Holding her breath, Chloe practically burst out of the kitchen carrying the final bowl, her face beaming with absolute pride that her dessert didn't turn into a total disaster this time around. Julia scooped up a spoonful, took a cautious taste, and finally gave a slow nod. Not bad. The cooking time was spot on. Really? Chloe's eyes instantly lit up like sparklers. She spun around to me and grinned. Hubby, did you hear that? Julia said the cooking time was spot on. Last time, she said, my sago was cooked into a literal starch paste. This is a huge improvement. Julia chimed in with another rare compliment. Chloe was so hyped she practically spun in circles right there on the spot. As she sat down, she purposely nudged my leg with her knee, whispering excitedly, Did you catch that? Julia actually praised me. She scooped a spoonful of the sago soup, bringing it right to my lips, and the mango is perfectly ripe, too. I opened my mouth and took a bite. Man, it really was a massive upgrade from her last attempt. The sago was perfectly chewy. The coconut milk was sweet and fragrant, and the mango was just bursting with flavor. Delicious. Her eyes curved into happy little crescent moons as she leaned over, planting a soft kiss on the corner of my mouth. A reward for you. Julian just kept his head down, hyper-focused on inhaling his dessert and pretending he didn't see a single thing. Julia kept her signature poker face, taking tiny, elegant bites of her sago soup. Still, I caught that super subtle, uncontrollable little smirk tugging at the corner of her lips. Sis, stop faking it, Chloe teased with a mischievous chuckle. You and Julian are totally just like this when you're at home, too. Last time we went camping, I heard absolutely everything. Are you cold? Why are your hands freezing again? Come here. Tisk, tisk. Julia slowly put down her spoon and shot her a deadly glare. That look was completely devoid of emotion. Chloe instantly shrank back like a startled turtle, shuffling as close to my side as possible. She was simply no match for the Ice Queen doctor's commanding presence. Completely overpowered by that cold-faced doctor's intense aura, she stammered, the weather sure is nice today. Changing the subject is way too forced, Julia bluntly replied. Later that evening, after seeing the guests off, Chloe slumped back onto our sofa. She kicked both her legs up over my knees, slapping on a sheet mask before asking, Was Julia in a crazy good mood today or what? How could you even tell? I asked. She actually smiled 3 times today. 3 times? Do you have any idea how rare it is to catch Julia smiling even once in public? I've known her forever, and all the smiles I've seen from her combined don't even add up to today's count. I thought about it for a second, and she was totally right. Ever since Julian's health bounced back, Julia's entire icy vibe had softened up immensely. Before all this, she was like an unsheathed scalpel, deadly, precise, razor-sharp, and completely void of warmth. Now, that sharp blade was still there, but the handle was finally wrapped up in a cozy, warm layer of cotton. That's because Julian's health is getting better, I pointed out. She doesn't have to live in absolute terror of losing him anymore. Chloe went dead silent for a moment. Then, she peeled off her sheet mask, rolled over, and buried her face deep into my chest. Her voice was muffled but heartbreakingly earnest. Hubby, you have to take amazing care of yourself. Stay super healthy and live a really, really long life. I never want to end up like Julia used to be living in that constant, suffocating fear while I watch over you every single day. Weren't you just bragging about her praising your sago soup? I gently teased. How did things get so heavy all of a sudden? I pulled her slightly closer, holding her tight. Don't sweat it. My health is top tier. Did you completely forget about my last checkup? The doctor literally said my vitals are healthier than a college student's. Yeah, well, that's because you go fishing every day and get plenty of exercise. See? Fishing is great for my health. So don't even try to stop me from going in the future. Keep dreaming, buddy. You can go fish, but you get half a day max each time. And you better bring some actual fish back with you. If you show up empty-handed, don't even think about stepping through that front door. Babe, you're killing me here. Whether the fish actually bite isn't exactly up to me. Whether they bite or not is out of my hands. Well, then it all comes down to your so-called fishing skills, doesn't it? She tilted her head up. The tip of her nose was slightly red, but her eyes were curved into those gorgeous crescent moons again. Anyway, I'm sticking by your side for the rest of my life. You have to take full responsibility for me. Forever. Smiling, I leaned down and pressed a soft kiss against her forehead. The leftover essence from her face mask rubbed right onto my nose. It was cool and smelled like fresh aloe vera. All right, fine. I'll gladly take responsibility forever. I'll take responsibility for you in our next life, too. Let's worry about the next life when we actually get there. Let's just focus on living this life to the fullest. But first, go wash the damn dishes. I've got a face mask to put on, so I'm officially immobilized. Didn't you say you were doing the dishes today? That was this afternoon. The entire situation has shifted. I successfully made dessert and got Julia's official seal of approval. So, I am graciously passing the supreme honor of dishwashing over to you. Hurry up and get to it. No dawdling. Accepting my tragic fate, I pushed myself up and trudged toward the kitchen. I only made it halfway when her voice echoed from behind me. Hubby? What now? Love you. I froze in my tracks, slowly turning around to look at her curled up on the sofa. That silly sheet mask was stuck to her face again. Her hair was an absolute bird's nest, and she was swimming in my oversized, beat-up old t-shirt. She was absolutely perfect. She was curled up into a tiny ball, with only her smiling eyes peeking out at me. It was a complete 180-degree flip from the breathtaking girl in the white veil who had stolen everyone's breath at our wedding. But honestly, looking at her right now made my heart pound even harder than it did on that stage. I love you too, I whispered back. Looking completely satisfied, she casually rolled over, grabbed the TV remote, and started hunting for a movie. I just smiled, heading into the kitchen to turn on the faucet. I spent the next few minutes wiping down the greasy stove, scrubbing away the chaotic aftermath of her little egg-frying experiment. I rinsed the dishes, setting them out to dry, and carefully reorganized the absolute disaster zone she had made out of our fridge. From the living room, I could hear the sweet, infectious sound of her giggling at whatever movie she put on. Out of nowhere, a tiny moth squeezed through a crack in the window, frantically fluttering in endless circles around the warm glow of the kitchen light. Down in the courtyard below, neighborhood kids were laughing, running around, and chasing each other. Distant car horns honked through the city air, while a nostalgic old song played from the apartment next door, its muffled melody bleeding softly through the thin walls. I stood there, watching the soapy bubbles swirl around the sink under the rushing water before quietly slipping down the drain. It hit me then. This is exactly what real life is supposed to be. It wasn't the picture-perfect, carefully planned romance of a flashy honeymoon, or the center of attention glory of a massive wedding day. No, it was this. The grease-splattered stovetop in a messy kitchen, the living room throw pillow stained with her expensive face mask essence, a half-eaten pot of leftover pickled fish stew sitting in the fridge, and 4 unfinished bowls of sweet mango sago soup. It was just another totally ordinary night, with her lounging on the couch in a messy face mask, while I stood quietly by the sink, washing the dishes. All these beautifully mundane moments stacked together, day after day. This was it. This was everything I had ever wanted. Bonus.